all her team in great synergies this edition. As you know, this conference involves several research groups from the university, and these groups include, first of all, Embrent from the Faculty of Business and Communication Studies, but also Glossa and Gedlik from the Faculty of Education, Translation, Sports and Psychology, Tracte, which is an inter-faculty group associated with both the Faculty of Education, Translation, Sports and Psychology and the Faculty of Business and Communication Studies, and last but not least, Isambes from the Faculty of Health Sciences and Welfare. You see from these names that interdisciplinarity and ESG is at the core also of this conference. I would also like to thank the permanent coordinating committee led by Mireia Canals, Núria Camps and Núria Medina. 8 years ago, they started the conference with the vision of revisiting storytelling from an interdisciplinary perspective. This involved initially 3 research groups, which worked on gender studies, translation, linguistics, didactics, and literature. But after this first seminal edition in 2018, more research groups from the university joined in. And now, as I've said, 5 groups are involved and have added their expertise from the fields of business, health studies, and communication. So we see from this environment that the conference has fostered synergies among diverse disciplines and among international participants. And we were just discussing before the beginning, how international cooperation started some years ago in this context. And so this conference has promoted or foregrounded relevant research and knowledge transfer initiatives. Its main outcomes have been the leadership and participation in European, Spanish and Catalan research projects, and other relevant results are publications, knowledge transfer agreements, and lecture exchange programs around the world. These outcomes have been possible thanks to the academic and human quality of all research involved, which you will be able to share today. And this, an example of this warmth, academic and human hospitality can be seen also in the details you have in the room, and with this green, these seeds, rosemary, spermallac, I don't know the name in English, salvia. Well, we see all this. This shows the attention to detail and human attention to this global vision of ESG. So, and before, for me, this is an example of the holistic approach we have to research and engagement in different areas. But I also wanted to remind you that previous topics of the conference have included gender, language, literature, translation, cinema, transmedia, music, health, within interdisciplinary holistic approach. And this year, we see the interdisciplinary nature in the title with ESG, storytelling and environmental, social and governance. And I would like to quote the lines about the objective of this conference, which are shown in the webpage of the conference, because I think they epitomize this nature of the conference, and they are very well explained. So I'm literally quoting you and the organizing committee about the main objective of the conference, which is to advance the understanding of how storytelling shapes, communicates, and supports environmental, social, and governance practices. The conference seeks to promote critical reflection on the power of narrative to inspire action, provide transparency, an important element nowadays, I would say, and foster sustainable and ethical behaviors across companies, institutions, and society at large. Therefore, we see this within the spirit of this conference, the program is built, and this gives rise to 2 sessions. The first keynote lectures, which will be devoted to each of these environmental, social, and governance practices. And so we'll listen to contribution dealing with storytelling and environmental by Juan Gomez from Fluidra, so this from a company, and this will dialogue with intervention from the university, storytelling and social with Mireia Canals from our university, and storytelling and governance with Andrés Gorla from the Universitat de Siena. So we see this connection between international and local scope and between university and companies. This threefold axis will also be replicated in the discussion panels closing the session. And again, there will be contributions from research and from companies. Then we have an interesting session of nucleus of paper presentations, which shows the richness and the transversality and vitality of research in the universities, and with an academic look at the ESG perspective in companies from different sectors: pharmaceutical, telecommunications, the press, book publishing, cinema, and also politics. And to close, I think this conference is important for different reasons. First, it highlights diversity and interdisciplinarity. I repeat interdisciplinarity because it's something that I think characterizes the research in our universities, but it's not always easy to conduct or to explain. So when it is done, and it's well done as it here, let's repeat it again, interdisciplinarity. And this is so in addressing scientific and management challenges related to ESG. Secondly, it's important that it shows the importance of ESG in addressing global challenges and influencing global and local decision-making processes. And these are all examples of the research model for universities in the 21st century. Universities with international vision, with innovative applied research that provides solutions to often unexpected challenges by creating complicities with all stakeholders involved in research and management. So as you can see from the program and from the wide areas it covers, storytelling is an important agent tool for analysis, but also for transformation and for improvement. So therefore, I invite you all to enjoy all the forms of storytelling involved in this conference, and especially to consider storytelling and ESG as tools for transformation. Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you so much. Welcome to everybody. The program begins with an introduction to the acronym ESG, the E, environmental, efficient water, and energy management, presented by Juan Gómez from Fluidra. The S, social, aim and understanding current migration dynamics, by Mireia Canals, UVic, UCC. And the G, governance, dedicated to analyzing governance models in activity sectors, by Andrei Sgorla, University of Siena. Thank you so much. Do you have 10 minutes to present? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much to the university to give me the opportunity to explain this story to you. I want to talk about pools and environment. Since the pools are big vessels with a high storage of water, I want to focus in the different parts of the environment. I want to focus on the water. Okay, thank you. Yeah, because water is life and is the resource of life of our planet Earth. But our planet has another name. It's the blue planet. However, the available water for drinking for the humans, it's a very small portion of all the water. Just to give you an idea, 98% of the water is salty water, and only 2.5% is fresh water. From this 2.5%, less than 1%, it's only fresh water available for drinking for the humans. Just to give an idea of this dimension, the largest sphere here on the left side is the fresh water, and the diameter is about 1,400 kilometers, which is the distance between Barcelona and Manchester. The fresh water here, it's this medium-sized sphere here on the middle, is about 273 kilometers, which is the distance from Barcelona to Zaragoza. However, the smaller sphere, it's only the available drinking water for humans, and it's only 56 kilometers from Vic to Barcelona. and this is the amount of fresh water that we have in our planet. So it's very important. Water is a precious resource for us. 45% of the population of the Earth, it's living in arid or semi-arid regions. So here on the left side, you see a map, a world map of the water global stress, and the way that it's calculated is by the use of water compared to the renewable water resources of the area. And here on the left side, we can see the evolution of the total global water withdrawals from the 1900 to I think it's 2018. So the population is increasing. We are now exceeding 8 billion of people in the Earth, and the industrialization of the emerging economies creates a great stress on the water. And globally, the water use is estimated that is growing 1% for the last 40 years. If we focus on our region, the Mediterranean, according to the expert and also to the scientist and the academic, the Mediterranean area warms 20% faster than the global average. In July 2025, the average temperature was 26.9 degrees Celsius. So now this year we are lucky, but we are coming from a drought for the last 6 years, and it's a risk in the future to have the day zero with no water or an scarcity of fresh water for the humans. So also, according to the academic researches from the decade of 2045 to 2054, it is likely to have a decade of drought. But the case of Spain is even worse. So we live in the Iberia Peninsula, and in Spain, the forecast is by 2050, 70% of the population faces a high risk of water scarcity. The discharge, which is the flows of the rivers discharging in the seas, has decreased from 1971 to 2000, an average of 14 to 37%. And if we compare our water stress compared with our neighbor, Portugal, so in Spain we have 42% of water stress compared with only 12% in Portugal. So this is important, and now we see also the water uses. 70% of the water uses is for agriculture. 20% is for industry, and 10% is for municipal domestic applications. So here we can see in the graphic of the right-hand side, we can see that even when the industry has done a good job, now the curve is flattening. The uses of municipal water is increasing due to this growth of population. So sustainable water management is essential to try to preserve this life resource in the future, and also it's very important because the SDG 6 is focused on the water and sanitation for all the inhabitants of the earth. But there are many challenges, as we mentioned: climate change, pollution, population, and also the variability of the resource. But there are solutions. Technological innovation is giving an opportunity to manage better this resource. Also, if we think that 70% of the water uses it's agriculture, also the irrigation has increased also the technology and also the green infrastructure. The strategy is to create a governance strategy, education for all the inhabitants of the earth, and also there are many success cases like the city of Singapore, Latin America, Australia, and so on. Now, let's the relationship between swimming pools and water. As I mentioned, so swimming pools, it's an storage of water, but also it's important for recreation, exercise, relaxation for millions of people. Also, with the climate change, the swimming pools provide a relief from the summer heat. Many people think that the swimming pools is a waste of water, although the swimming pools are designed as a closed water system. So they use water, of course, for maintenance, evaporation, but it's very few compared to other uses of water. For example, here we can see one of the main loss of water in the swimming pools are evaporation. But if we see the two drawings, so the two images of the written part of the right-hand part of the slide, so we can see that the water cycle is similar, the natural water cycle, than in a swimming pool. So when we talk about a loss of water in a swimming pool, but due to the evaporation, but this water is not lost water. So this water goes to the natural water cycle. And then also thinking the 10% of water uses in municipal uses, the swimming pools are less than 1%. So I think it's 0.65% of the 10%. So it's very, very, very small. However, we have to think, and we have to create responsible pools. And then in Fluidra, we think in this. And for this reason, the swimming pools must be designed from the start to be more conservative in water. But now I'm thinking not only water, also in environmental. So Fluidra also, we have created an indicator of the sustainability of the products. Nowadays, 56% of the sold product in 2024 are sustainable products, and the target is to sell 80% by 2035. But what is a sustainable product? So the sustainable product starts from the production. So using low carbon and sustainable manufacturers, advanced technologies, and with renewable energy resources, etc. Also, sustainable products are products during the phase of the use with higher energy efficiency, saving water, it's very important, and also to reducing the chemical products in the swimming pool, which are necessary for the disinfection of the swimming pool. But also, sustainable products are products designed for the end of their lives, to be circular. When we talk about circular, it's our products with a recycled content in materials, also products to be repairable with durability, also products with a recyclability potential in their materials once the product it's at the end of the life, also with materials for health and safety, but also products with social equity in the complete supply chain. There are, as I mentioned, technology is one of our help for the water management. For example, we talk evaporation. It's one of the produces 80 to 95%. Produces 30% of the water lost, but with a simple automatic cover, we can reduce the evaporation by 80 or to 95%, which is annual water savings of 30%. I don't want to go in deep into this because this is very technical to the pool industry. But there are many, if you see here in the two bottom images, there are many points where we can act to create a more efficient and more responsible pools. I just talk about environmental, but also the commitment of Fluidra. It's regarding the ESG and environmental. So we told everything here. So climate change. The idea is to achieve carbon neutrality by 2027. Also the water reduction, also creating products to save water and design pools to be more efficient with the water consumption. Also, the idea is to certificate all our plants with ISO 14001. Also, as I mentioned, that the commitment is to achieve 80% of product sales with sustainable product by 2035. In the social, also the quality of employment is important. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are less than 3%. So the wage gap is less than 30%. Also, the community engagement in governance, ESG partnerships, transparency. We have been in the three consecutive years in the Standard & Poor's Sustainability Yearbook, and also responsibility management. But this is not enough, and in Fluidra, we think about for the swimming pools of the future. And the swimming pools of the future, it's a concept that combines environmental, but also the term of positive is that it's not only consuming resources, it's giving also to the community in the environmental aspect. So the positive pool focuses in reducing water, energy, and chemical. It promotes also the water reuse and the use of different harvesting system for harvesting sources of water, like, for example, rainwater, and also the use of sustainable products. But also the social aspect is very important, is the one of the most important vector. So the positive pool ensures the well-being by creating accessibility, safe, and inclusion for the users. It promotes health by the ergonomic design, also the sanitation that is safer and with fewer chemicals and clean environments. Also, the pool acts as a social hub. So since the beginning, the pools, it's a center, creating a social hub, fostering also community, inclusion, and sharing experiences among the users. And also it integrates safety measures and programs to encourage the people to learn to swim, and an education for the users. So the idea is the positive pool is the pool that cares for the people. And now this is a short video of 1 minute that maybe explains better than me what is a positive pool.
What if we told you that a pool can be more than just a place to swim? It can also serve as a catalyst for positive change in both our environment and society. That's what a positive pool is all about. Socially, a positive pool fosters social connection and cohesion, offering leisure and fun while promoting well-being and health. It is inclusive in access and use for people of all ages and abilities. It has the required health and safety measures in place. Environmentally, a pool is considered as positive if it's efficient in the use of water and energy, reducing its consumption in a significant manner. But also, it could contribute positively to your household's balance from an energy and water perspective. It's also efficient in the use of chemical products, making the water healthier for the environment and swimmers. It embraces circularity principles by prioritizing recyclable products and materials. We want to turn a purely recreational place into a force for positive change in our communities and the environment. We are changing the meaning of traditional pools by turning our pools into positive. Positive pools. Fluidra.
So, thank you very much. And then also, I just want to say that water, it's important for the pools, but also for the beer industry. And the social part of the positive pool is important for the pools, but Mireia is going to tell us something about the social.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, hello, good morning. Good morning. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. I'm going to link it to my speech, which I hope it's short enough not to bore you so much, because it's very conceptual. I'm going to be talking about innovation But before that, and linking to your talk, I would like to say that for the concept about transformative innovation, which is what we are working now at the University of Vic in terms of research and transfer of knowledge, is taking this European idea, and I know that some of you students have been in the core of the governance in the European Union, which is Brussels. So last week, so you may understand what I say when I say that in Europe we believe that the person is in the center part of everything. So it's in the center of the discussion, and this is how we understand our European society. So taking this into account, I'm going to be talking about innovation and what innovation is, which is not just technology oriented, but also talking about mainly people. And let me ask you one question. What good is innovation if it doesn't reach every single community, urban, rural, migrant, or marginalized? So today, I will show you how storytelling connects society with innovation through RIS 3CAT, which is an invention that the European Commission once thought about to transport innovation from the concept in the desks of the Commission up to civil society, which implies all of us. So also I'm going to be talking about shared agendas, and this concept that what's most important is that not leaving anyone behind. So this methodology is what we are working now, and we have been working for and with the government of Catalonia for 3 years now. And I'm going to be explaining you what's this about, and it has come to stay among us for, I think, many years now. So, okay, let me see. So the University of Vic plays basically a key role in linking innovation and social engagement. And this presentation basically will be introducing you what's RIS 3CAT and also what's a shared agenda, which is a very special name, and all these strategies which are designed for basically collaboration and align regional strengths with global opportunities. This is what we understand by the concept of RIS 3CAT. Is the Catalonia's Smart Specialization Strategy promotes innovation by connecting regional strengths and also global trends, and encourage collaboration among all the stakeholders. And I will deepen into the stakeholders. Share agendas through transformative research and innovation, unite actors around common goals and foster co-creation, not creation, but co-creation and participatory governance, which is, why is this important? Because challenges like migration, rural depopulation, social inequality cannot be solved in isolation, or cannot be solved only in the European Commission or in the Catalan government, or in a desk of a researcher. So through storytelling, we are making these strategies resonate in all these communities. Storytelling bridges complex strategies and real-life experiences, so it makes abstract concepts relatable, builds trust, and inspires collective action. And how do we explain innovation to a farmer in a rural area or a migrant family seeking integration? Then through stories that connect technical goals with human aspirations. Effective storytelling starts with 3 basic elements: the challenge, So rural isolation, migration pressures, digital divides, and then a vision, a common vision, which is a future for inclusion, sustainability, prosperity, and it has to be ideal and shared by most, not all, but shared by most. And then the journey, which is collaborative frameworks like the RIS3CAT and shared agendas that guide us to the point. Wouldn't you agree that people engage more when they see themselves in the story? Then yeah, that's why we use tools like visual impact maps, testimonials from rural entrepreneurs, stories of migrants successfully integrated through innovation projects. And dissemination precisely happens through workshops in villages, social media campaigns, and public events that invite participation from every sector of society. Storytelling is not only about explaining strategies, it shapes social narratives that promote diversity, inclusion, and equity, and it humanizes innovation, and mostly humanizes innovation. This is clue to our job nowadays, and connects it into real societal needs. This infographic, as you see, illustrates the concept of the shared agenda. It integrates the quadruple helix actors, academia, industry, government, and civil society, and storytelling and social narratives, and place-based experimentation spaces. As you see, this is a process of creation of a challenge to be solved. Okay. This is what's mostly what we have been doing for many time now, for many years now. This model integrates 4 actors: academia, industry. Industry, I refer to companies, startups in the territory, not only in the big areas like Barcelona, and also civil society and administration, government. Each brings unique strengths, knowledge, market orientation, policy support, and also social legitimacy, which was never counted in a table when we sat on a table. So what happens when these actors get together, work together? They create solutions that are technically sound, economically viable, and socially acceptable, always with a common future vision. So this is what we work with them and how we work with them, okay? These are real life environments. Innovations are tested under actual conditions. They accelerate adoption because we have the administration and the enterprises involved. They build trust because all of them are at the same level, taking decisions horizontally, transversally speaking, yeah, and ensure solutions that meet societal needs, mostly challenges, and mostly in our territory, rural towns, urban neighborhoods. Some real examples of Catalonia, let's look at them, which are different case studies. The agendas that we have been working until now are the dependence and chronicity agenda. An agenda, as I told you, is a bunch of people coming from this quadruple helix. So this means people from the administration, people in civil society, maybe representatives of a neighborhood, or from individuals, yeah. Also researchers, maybe belonging to a research group, or maybe individuals also. And all of them are fond of solving a real challenge in the territory. So they share the agenda of solving this problem. So what they have to do is to build up, first of all, future vision, the ideal future vision that they have. So I imagine a city where my kids can go out and the air is purified and has no contamination, for instance, which is an agenda that it's going on right now. Yes, and that pediatrics can give solutions to asthma-oriented children at school, and teachers are fond of doing activities in relation whatever, and they have machines measuring the air, etc. This could be an ideal future vision, and then they all search a common or common projects, common initiatives, innovative initiatives that can lead to accomplish this ideal future vision. All right. So these are the three that we have. For the first one, dependence and chronicity agenda, which is focusing precisely in focusing on improving, for instance, patient care or a person's care, yes, with digital tools, emphasizing well-being and empowerment. This agenda was created from two innovation camps that were held here in Vic at the beginning, at the end of September, yeah, and met people coming from everywhere in central Catalonia, and also individuals, also representatives from the administrations, all central Catalonia, and then also enterprises. Mostly we applied to enterprises dealing with innovation tools, which are more computer-related tools, yeah, because we were also dealing with loneliness, yes, in rural areas, for instance, with aged people, or caring for patients in rural areas, yeah, because Central Catalonia has this challenge as a priority, and also health professionals, and also research health researchers, yes, and so we set them in diverse tables, well, more than 12 tables, yes, with 8 people each one, and with this 4 quadruple helix, yeah, and then we pose them the challenge. They devised a future vision altogether, and then they decided to define some actions to do in the future to come. Yeah, all these representatives that were really interested in solving these challenges, which were 9 challenges, yes, altogether, but all in all, in the main topic of dependence and chronicity, yeah, all the people interested, yes, expressed this interest, and we created this agenda. And this agenda is, okay, what is our future vision, and what are the objectives to solve, and what are the actions that we propose? Let's see if we can manage, yeah, between you that are government in Catalonia, and between you that are an enterprise that can give me the technical solution, and between you that are researching precisely on this, and you that are the affected society that is dealing and trying to find this solution and has detected the solution in the territory. Yeah, so this work like that. Another one, which is precisely linked with what my colleague from Florida was talking about, was the sustainable circular economy agenda, and with sustainable products, as he was telling, and was precisely promoting environmental sustainability. And this has been going on for many years now, and it's an agenda that works in the whole Catalonia, and also for innovative business solutions and models, as you were pointing so very well. And then the last one is Social Innovation Lab. So many social innovation labs using storytelling precisely to foster empathy and integration around migration and employment issues. So this is another one, right? These are examples. So and I finish with this, connecting this is how we work in maps, yeah, for different topics, and then we try to connect them. I'm sorry because it's not really, but it scares a little bit at the beginning, but we connect the topics through this. So we see all the points, the role of storytelling, the quadruple helix governance, the shared agenda alignment, and then the experimentation spaces, which test innovations in real world context. And this is the responsible of our researchers, precisely, building evidence and trust among all the stakeholders, and then they bring solutions to this, right? And well, thank you. Just to finish, I want to say that innovation must be inclusive and participatory. We are story makers who become storytellers by means of European governance, as I pointed at the beginning of my talk. But well, this is yet another story to tell. Storytelling makes that possible by connecting the strategies with people's lives. And so what kind of future do we want? A future where innovation is for some or for all. So this is, thank you very much.
Vale, pues sí. Voy.
Bom dia, buongiorno, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present your studies, your study, storytelling and governance in the brewing industry in Italy and Spain. Okay. The objective of the study is how storytelling builds trust and shapes views of governance. Greenwashing risks when narratives lack governance support, and key governance implication for ESG reporting. And presented two cases, brew case studies. Peroni is the big company in Italy, and Mal in Spain. I decision they use the two cases for the disponibility of in the web, the reporting, in the memorias, is the sustainability, and it's possible in analysis of the storytelling and governance. Environment governance indicators is constituting 4 blocks: environment strategy and governance. Yes. Environmental risk management, environmental transparency and reporting, and regulatory compliance and environment business ethics. Storytelling and governance. Why storytelling matters in ESG? Simplify ESG data into clear messages, connect actions with values, supported governance when narratives met evidence, and shape responsibility, but must meet mensurable standards. In the European context, ESG governance, for indications: European Green Deal, systemic transition to climate neutrality, corporate sustainability reporting directive, narrative mandatory reporting plus double materiality, European sustainability reporting standards, standardized verify ESG indicators, and environment governance indicators, ethics, risk, oversight, and transparency. Why the brewing is a case study? High environmental impacts, water use, energy intensive emissions, strong cultural meanings, heritage, national identity, consumer symbolics, high public visibility, constant scrutiny from media and stakeholders, ideal field to observe the tensions, storytelling plus emotion, governance, demand, evidence, and scale and relevance, relevance to 10,000 breweries in Europe. 2 million jobs is one important sector in the European economy. But I present is two cases: Peroni narratives, Peroni emotional and cultural storytelling, symbolic proximity, connection with consumers, low impact, reduce water, energy, and the CO2, expand sustainable innovation and eco design across products, credibility via ISO certification and community engagement. But okay. And the MAU narrative, MAU is data-driven institutional storytelling. Data-driven goals with strong water and circularity performance, advancing decarbonization through energy efficiency and low-impact process, governance ensure through certification, assurance, and the board oversight, builds legitimacy through compliance and transparency. In the comparative to companies, Peroni versus MAU, two legitimacy strategies, dimensions, narrative. For example, in Peroni, many emotional, cultural, MAU, data-driven, institutional. Governance, in the Peroni, many symbolic, MAU, institutional. Verification, weak in the Peroni, and external audits in the MAU. Risks, narrative greenwashing, and the MAU, low public emotional appeal. Conclusion, in my theme, is the narratives and the governance must working together. Storytelling is a governance tool, not just branding. It's important difference. Emotional narratives need verify data. Governance buildings trust but not cultural reconnaissance. Sorry. Legitimacy requires authenticity, verification, transparency, and engagement. Thank you for for attention. Cheers.
No, I was wondering if I was wondering if anyone has any questions, so I
Yes.
think that maybe we can answer them if
Be free to ask a question for one of our speakers, please.
Oh, okay. Wow. Hola. Sí, sí. Vale, vale. Good morning to you. Yeah. Well, good morning. I'm Jordi. I'm a global studies student from second. So does the U-Divulga apply all of these? And if it does, how does it work?
Yes. Okay. You see that gentleman in the back with the glasses on? Yeah. His name is Jordi Alteza. Hello, Jordi. He's one person in the team of what we call a innovation transformative unit that we created 3 years ago. And he's responsible precisely on well, many issues, but basically the relations with the government and also communication. He's very good at communication also, and organizing the innovation camps that we have been organizing so far. So there are two. And yes, well, we are working with him and with Marc Bassas and with Elizabeth Dax, who's responsible for the technical research office at the UVic UCC premises of the Federation. And we are working together with the government. The government asked and required us to be coordinators of this transformative innovation. So calling back civil society, administration, enterprises, and researchers, and sitting them all around a table, all at the same level, not up, down, and then all at the same, and then placing them with a challenge in the central Catalonia area. Yeah, so we have 12 universities in the Catalan map, and then we are responsible for coordinating these actors these actors, stakeholders. Well, I just prefer these people, yeah, in all central Catalonia, and then try to introduce them to each other, yeah, which they are working parallelly. Yeah, well, civil society are waiting, yeah, for solutions, but no, so they can be propositive. And so they sat down on tables, and precisely Jordi and Marc and Beth are people responsible for the dynamics in these tables. So they are sort of spying if the rest are behaving well and not only applying to their own interest. For instance, well, each one has. So these dynamics, sitting on tables and placing a challenge, and for instance, loneliness in rural areas. This is a challenge. Yeah? So placing this challenge in a table, and then, okay, let's build up all together what is our common vision of the future for solving this challenge. So this is the starting point. And this takes a lot of time, a lot. And we have done these innovation camps driven by precisely Jordi, and then now we are in the point of downloading. We have downloaded a sort of text, yeah, and now we are building this agenda. So this shared agenda in Central Catalonia, but the government is asking us to share this agenda with the rest of the universities and the rest of the population in Catalonia, so that they have a common agenda that can be sent to the Commission, the European Commission, and then say, okay, we have done our homework. Yes, we are there, and we are all ruling together the solutions for our challenges in the territory. So this is more or less how we are working. Yeah. So yeah, it's a challenge itself a lot, but we are trying, and we hope that our researchers, the main storytelling, the hard storytelling for us, and some people here know that it was hard for us. It's to let our researchers and our staff at the faculties understand that this is the way we have to be working now. So researchers are not working in their offices. Yeah? They have to share their knowledge and to give solutions to the challenges, yeah? Or try to be creative and say, yes, well, we are working with data, but maybe we need this technological startup to just join us, because then what you are saying that you are suffering there can be solved. So all of them. And then we are there trying to connect them and bringing the solutions together and not missing them through the time. So more or less, it's how it works. I don't know if I made myself understood. Sorry, but this is how it works. It's a little bit complex and conceptual, I told you. And there are many names that we have to translate sometimes when we go to the faculties, for instance, and explain this is coming and this is staying and this is the way we have to work now from now on. Sometimes it's complicated because the names of the things are agenda, share agenda, for instance, or things like that, right? But we are fond of it, and we believe it works because there are some examples that are working very well. So why not? And giving voice to people, it's fantastic in our case because we come from representatives of people, and it's a part of our third mission at the university. So it's compulsory on us. So thank you.
One more question, and we will go to the Try it again.
Hello. Okay. Another question for you, sorry. But for Mireia,
Sí.
do you think that this kind of functioning should have a bigger role in the European Union? We have, for example, the Economic and Social Committee, which is very similar to what you explain, collaboration of academics and industry and civil society and so on. But it's consultative, so it doesn't have a lot of power. Do you think this sort of collaboration should be more present in the European Union?
Well, as you know by now, the European ruling, it's not precisely mostly depending on the parliament, which usually in the states and in the regions is legislative, but not in the union. You know that laws come from the commission, or maybe come from the parliament, but go to the commission, always supervised by the commission, which is a very political body itself. Not the technicians, but the commissioners are very political. So they more or less ban some of the actions that may happen in the regions. Yes. But then you have the Committee of the Regions, which is also consultative. So who rules here? Here, the states rule, are ruling, and they have ruling bodies. They have the parliaments, and also we have the Congreso, but we also have the 17 regional parliaments. So, and they are ruling also, and they are stating and creating laws. But we are doing this with the regional government. So in a way, this principle of subsidiarity that comes from the European Union, that means that all that is happening up there has to reach the people that stands up every morning in the territory, in everywhere, in every street, in every house. Yes. So this principle, the governments have to defend this. And only, I think, this is why this research and innovation strategy comes from the Commission, because they are the rulers. So they approve through the Parliament, or deny. If the Parliament denies, maybe it goes up to the Commission again, or maybe with a directive. But yes, I think it's working, since we have these European funds, because I didn't talk about this, but we are working with European funds with this project. It's a 40% covered by European funds, the 60% covered by the university. But this means that they are giving us some budget to implement this. So I understand that we are sort of deciding, taking decisions here. Well, it's up to the government, to the Catalan government, say yes or no. But yes, we are deciding. So yes, consultative apparels in the European Union, a lot. But you know that the decisions are taken in the Commission, the European Commission, and then consultative, some of them to the Parliament, not the legislative body, to the Parliament. It's more consultative, the Parliament, that say yes or no and then returns to the Commission. But it's not on them to decide and create. And in this case, yes, because it's a directive that comes from the Commission. I don't know if I made myself understood again, so sorry, but it's a lot. It's very complex, the governance in Europe. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for your answers. And we have another question. Albert.
Thank you. Thank you very much for these keynotes. I would like to ask a question for Juanjo. So how do the positive pools like save energy from water and energy? So how could you explain a little bit in more detail?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, for example, many swimming pools are quite old. We have been working with the city of Barcelona. So city of Barcelona, they have, I think, 55 different facilities with swimming pools. Most of these swimming pools, those swimming pools, are built for the Olympics. So previous to 1992. As Mireia said, the knowledge on the university and innovation, it's important, and the product has changed quite a lot from the 90s till now. So now there is an opportunity to change those products to new products with more efficient, more eco-efficient. So, for example, in 1919, all the motors, so there were no European directive for electrical motors. Now there are many European directives, and is giving a low level of efficiency. All the products with an efficiency level worse than this minimum are banned of the market. So now, just by changing the pumps, which is an energy consumer, by new pumps, the facility is more efficient. And also, it's important, as Mireia said, this knowledge transfer from the university, from the researchers, and not only in economics, but in engineering and so with industry. Because I think this is one of those things. Also, another important point is also we are working together with the Barcelona City Hall, also to try to use more data-driven technologies. For example, now we signed a protocol last week with Indescat, which is the sports center cluster of Catalonia, together with Barcelona City Hall, to create one. We started with 5 facilities with digital twin. So we have implemented a digital twin system in those facilities. Now we have sensorized everything, and now with the digital, we can simulate different options in these swimming pools. And also the idea is so that the project will last 1 year till December 2026. And our idea is to learn how to create positive pools, or how we can improve the water consumption and energy consumption. And also, one important thing is to reduce the chemicals, which are necessary by law in the swimming pools. However, we can use other strategies like advanced oxidation processes and so to try to reduce the chemicals. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much to everybody. Now is the coffee break time, and we will go to the classroom CS 102. It's just near, close to this one, and we can go together and then continue. Thank you so much.
We can start our presentation. We have now the paper presentation session. Initially, there will be 8 papers, but finally there will be only 7. One researcher hasn't been able to attend the meeting. There will be the presenters have 10 minutes approximately for each presentation. We will let 1 or 2 questions after each presentation. So please, if you could make any comment or any question after each paper, it will be welcome. And nothing else. We can start with the first paper by Professor Jessica Menendez, and the title is Financial Health in the Communication of Transparency on Environmental Indicators in the Catalan Pharmaceutical Sector. Jessica, are you ready?
Ready.
I don't know if 10 minutes is enough for an Argentinian, but well, we are going to do our best. This is the index for our presentation. It's an introduction and context about the pharmaceutical industry in Catalonia. Then I will tell you about the methodology used in our paper, some of the main results and the analysis we've done, and discussion and main conclusions. So the pharmaceutical industry is one of Catalonia's leading industrial and economic drivers, accounts for 45% of Spain's pharmaceutical output, and represents around 10% of total exports. Assessing its economical, financial, and environmental performance is essential to promote responsible practices. So our research examines transparency and environmental practices in accordance with the European regulations for reporting on social, environmental, and governance required. In this way, the paper or the research evaluates the sector's economic and financial position and its environmental web-based disclosure, supporting informed economic and environmental decision-making. The COVID-19 pandemic represented a turning point for the pharmaceutical industry, rooting relevance in global health crisis. So the financial impacts, including substantial increases in research and development investment, strengthened the strategic positioning and growth in operating income and new assets. The integration of ESG and sustainable criteria and transparency creates opportunities, but at the same time, strong challenges for strengthening the reputation of the pharmaceutical sector, enhancing the financial performance, and advising circular economy practices. Transparency and effective CSR communication remain challenging and critical challenges for this sector, and the literature analyzed suggests the need for improved content and more robust channel for stakeholders management and also engagement. So enhanced transparency will improve the business performance through strong public and trust and competitiveness. So the main objective of our study was to conduct an economic and financial analysis of the annual reports and accounts for the period between 2019 and 2023 in Catalonia, and to examine the environmental indicators disclosed in sustainability reports. Yes, sorry. Me pasé una aquí. The analysis focuses on the financial and environmental profile of the most representative companies in the sector and on the degree of reliable environmental disclosure based on the European regulations and environmental indicators only. So the statistically significant correlations between financial and environmental variables were identified. A short and long-term analysis was conducted to determine the sector's ability to meet the economic obligations within 1 year. And also the environmental transparency was assessed through an exploratory study complemented by quantitative analysis. And based on this, we found the identification of relevant indicators. We put the focus on those pharmaceutical companies with revenues above 8 million euros and more than 50 employees. And the indicators, the financial indicators, were analyzed in also the relationship with the environmental transparency using the disclosure indexes. The data obtained was analyzed using the statistical software SPSS, and also the correlation analysis revealed strong relationships and significant relationships between the financial strongness and the environmental variables. The main results of the study shows that the economic financial analysis reveals strong solvency among the companies examined. The results indicates that the sector maintains sufficient cash or sufficient economic resources to meet all the obligations, the economic obligations easily. And the analysis also confirms a favorable and positive evolution of equity and indicating the strength of the financial strengths in the industry. And the index of the degree of disclosure of the environmental information shows that the indicators from most to the least reported are those related to the circular economy, the resource use, the climate change, pollution, water. But the least indicator are showed biodiversity and was the least reported. The main key findings are the pharmaceutical industry holds substantial relevance in Catalonia due to its contribution to industrial growth, value added, and its capacity to generate employment. That's one of the most important aspects of this industry, and its concentration of the 45% of the Spanish pharmaceutical sector. So this is one of the main key findings and one of the main important aspects of our research, and that's why we focused our research on the pharmaceutical industry. The correlation analysis showed that there's a significant and positive relation to the solvency, but negatively impacts on the profit and ROA. And the integration or the more strategic integration is needed in terms of the environmental disclosure. The future research shows us that the degree of the environmental transparency through the indicators and the relationship between, and there's a relationship between these two elements or these two dimensions, and effective decision-making within the sector will necessarily require the integration of both financial and environmental information. The future research for this study shows us that the future research could be incorporate the social and the governance factors, which just focus on the environmental factors, and this will give us a bigger picture of the sustainability performance in the pharmaceutical sector. And also, this study will lead us or will open the possibilities to report the practices across other industries, just to rebuild best practices or even improve the comparison between different businesses. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Menendez. We have time to make any question, maybe two, or any comment that the audience could pose on our presenter on such an interesting research.
Oh, yes, I was just wondering how the data collection was done.
The data collection was on.
Yeah, from where did you collect the data?
We use yes, we got here the selection criteria you were talking about. How we use a database that we have access here in the university, and this database gives us all the financial information about all the companies we have analyzed. And for the reports or sustainability reports, we went through the corporate websites, and we have collected all the reports and sustainability reports and environmental reports published by the company selected, these 8 companies selected. And then we looked for each of the criteria analyzed this one, all the indicators. And we analyze each indicator from these documents.
Okay, it was self-reported data from the company.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Don't you think that it would be good to, getting data from a third party can also be, how can you confirm that this data is not greenwashing or something like that if it's self-reported?
Well, because what we did was to compare or analyze these corporate documents or these reports based on the European legislation, European, like I was saying, European regulation for reporting. So based on this law or in these requirements, we have analyzed all the reporting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well, if I am not wrong,
We compare the reporting with these regulations.
the database should be SABI.
Exactly.
SABI. Es sistema de análisis de balances ibéricos.
Yeah.
This is data provided by the companies, but reliable information. Yeah, you have the balance sheet and the annual reports, accounting annual reports.
Financial reports and all the financial information is located in this database. It's a public database, or
No, it's for paid, but we have access from the university. It's Spanish and Portuguese companies only.
So all companies must can show or can publish or can add all their financial data into this database.
SABI. You can ask in the library.
Yeah.
Okay, Jessica, thank you very much for your presentation. As we can see, he's a beloved teacher by his students at the university. Also teachers we appreciate him very much, his colleagues.
So
and Dr. Armisen is going to present the paper titled Environmental Performance Assessment in the Telecommunications Sector, a comparative analysis of 3 corporations. Are you ready, Albert? Please.
Absolutely. So thanks a lot for the welcome. Today I'm going to be presenting this paper. It is a collaboration done by Nuria Riman, Clara Derive, and me. So we're going to be covering these different topics: introduction, methodology, results, and conclusion. And to begin with, I would like to frame this research. This research frames on the ESG transparency in the telecom sector. We're going to be studying 3 major European telecom in different index. And we're focusing from this conference on ESG, we're focusing on the first one, which is the environment. Notice that the aim of this paper is to evaluate the transparency and quality on the different environmental data reported under the standard of the European Sustainability Reporting. We will identify strengths and weaknesses, and we will link it to current practices on the EU Green and Digital Transition Agenda, that it's also as the EU Twin Agenda. So to frame the sector, the telecom sector in Europe, it generates 3.5 non-financial business and around 1.2 million. That means it's key for the European Union in terms of the technology autonomy and in terms of competitiveness. Notice that there is several regulations on the EU digital sovereign and digital signal market that makes this sector extremely important. And this sector, it is important in terms of sustainability for a number of reasons. Mostly, there is a growing data traffic and infrastructure consume. That means that they need more resources in terms of energy and infrastructure to serve this. And there is certain regulations under the umbrella of the ESG performance that must be attained. And what it is important is that there is many industries in it, and we want to focus on the leading ones to set up a benchmark, because if they pursue these sustainable practices, others will follow. There are two main standards. One is known as the Corporate Sustainability Reporting, and the other is the European Sustainable Reporting. And these two firms, they must adapt to it. Notice that what we do as a research gap in this paper is we identify the environmental indicators, and these European indicators, they are quite different and heterogeneous between these just three companies. There is a complication regarding the traceability and the auditability of ESG data. And what we are doing is we are focusing on a case-based approach to try to show some light into it. So far, what is the main pressure points? There is a high network on data centers and energy demand that it's leading to greenhouse emissions. There is a large number of devices that you require to process after they are used in a circular solutions. You need to integrate eco-efficiency telecom services, and all this has broad impacts on the full value chain. So in essence, what this sector wants to achieve is this digitalization, but reducing the environmental footprint. To do that, there is different strategies regarding renewable energies, circularity, and efficiency. And of course, what you need to do is you need to have transparent indicators. So what is the central objective? We want to assess the degree of transparency in these environmental indicators by the three big players, which are Telefónica, Orange, and Dutch Telecom, where we have examined the reports and do a cross-company analysis. And we have mapped this with the European Twin Strategy, which is the digital and sustainability strategies. So in essence, we are asking three questions, which is which environmental and climate management indicators are reported, how detailed, consistent, and comparable are these indicators, and what strengths and weaknesses emerge in ESG transparency for telecom. How have we done this? We have done an exploratory case study. In essence, it's a qualitative study of the data from the latest cycle, and we have gotten all this information from self-reported data, and which is sustainability and ESG reports and non-financial statements. And also we have validated and done a complementary analysis by going to the corporate websites and compare it. The three European incumbents are Telefónica from Spain, Orange from France, and Dutch Telecom from Germany. All of them, they are multinational companies in presence in different countries. And why have we picked this? Because they are large, stock index. They have similar role, but in different national contexts. And they are good to understand what are they doing as the leaders in ESG transparency. The variables analyzed in the area of environment are the following: greenhouse emissions, decarbonization targets that are linked to the eco-efficiency, energy consumptions and efficiency and share of the renewable energy, renewable electricity, water usage and water management, waste and e-waste management, and biodiversity and sustainable resources of initiatives. So let's go to the interesting part. What are the results and findings? Regarding the emissions and energy, all three firms, they disclose that the greenhouse gas emissions and energy data, but they differ. For instance, Dutch Telecom, they report all 100% of the energy is renewable energy with a clear pathway of decarbonization. In contrast, Telefónica and Orange, they describe efficiency, but it's rather weak, and they do not provide intensity indicators. That means that there is a clear implications for transparency. There is a heterogeneity and metrics that complicates comparing different companies. Just imagine that it's heterogeneous in these three leading companies. Imagine if you want to compare all of them. There is an intensity in indicators that most of the companies, they do not follow. And ESG aligned climate discourse appears to be uneven in these three operators. Regarding water and local pollution, none of them, of the operators, they report local and air pollution indicators. That means that it's likely that there is a low direct contribution to it. Telefonica and Deutsche Telekom, they disclose water consumption figures and efficiency, but Orange provides almost no information. And there is water-related actions related with cooling and buildings operations, but as mentioned, mostly done by Telefonica and Deutsche Telekom. Regarding biodiversity and circularity, we have Telefonica and Deutsche Telekom. They have significant projects on biodiversity and habitat protection. And all three, they mention repair and refurbishment. That means that it's good. So in this area, they're doing a good job. But the quantitative indicators and biodiversity are scarce. It's more qualitative per case events. And regarding transparency, Deutsche Telekom shows a broad interest and detailed information of the environmental detail. It's Telefonica, it's intermediate levels, and Orange, it's weak. Now, I would like to jump to the limitations of this study. Mostly, it's exploratory design. That means it's qualitative data. It's mainly descriptive findings. The sample of scope is just the three main incumbents. That means it's a use case, and it does not consider smaller or non-European operators. Time frame, it's only the last cycle. Data sources, we rely on self-reported, but we have complemented this with analyzing the different webs and reports in the field. Then there is the indicators. They are diverse and heterogeneous. That means it's difficult to compare. And the perspective is that we have not taken into consideration no stakeholders. So it would be good practice to do semi-structured interviews to find out about the different stakeholders and the ESG rate reviews. So summing up, the environmental reporting among leading European telecoms is improving, but it's uneven. There are significant differences between coverage, depth, and comparability, and there is non-standardized metrics that hinder comparison. So it's difficult to compare them. Regulators, they should need to define how to implement this ESRS implementation by sector and guidance for telecom. And operators should strengthen the quantitative data that they disclose, as most of it's not clear. And here you can find the different references, and I'm open to any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Albicen. Please. Just a minute. You have take the micro.
I had a question related to one of the things you were talking about, local pollution, that you said in theory that you would suspect that the companies don't have a lot of or an impact on local pollution. How did you arrive to that conclusion? Because for what I have understood, the ESRS, you have the cross-sectional ESRS, which is mandatory, and the other one, like the topical ones, which the companies are reporting if they think it's material to them. So could they could say, oh, we're not going to talk about this because perhaps it's reputational or whatever, and then they're not going to report on this. How can you be sure that they don't have any direct contribution to local pollution?
That's This is a good question, and this is why when I was mentioning, I was saying that like it is likely there is no hard data, but usually like corporations, they do not report data that hurt them from a reputation perspective. And if you find this missing data, it's likely it's because it's like at best neutral.
Yeah.
You're spot on. Thank you.
Yes, I have two. Well, one first question.
Yes.
What are the year of the analyzed data from?
It's 2 years ago. If
2 years
memory
ago.
serves me
So
well.
that's before the new regulation.
It was exactly like when the data was published.
Okay. No, it's just because you said that the results are uneven, and then my question was if the data come from 2024, that should be exactly the same because now we have a new regulation for these big companies.
It should be, and it should be improving. But the good thing is that we have like, this is why there is this uneven data, and it's nice to study like before it happens and in a future research after it happens, doing a comparison.
Thank you.
Thank you, Juanjo.
Thank you very much for your questions. We would like to hear a question by your students, Albert. They admire you, so we would like to hear any comment from other students.
Yes, from the business, yes.
Which is the subject?
Strategic management.
Strategic management, please, students of strategic management. Could you make a question to your admired teacher? Any comment, any critique? Come on. No questions? Okay, you can clap again, so. Thank you very much, Albert.
Thank you.
They have come just to see you, Albert.
Yeah.
They are not interested in ESG and storytelling in itself, but only in the telecommunication sector.
Not at least in me. I don't know, maybe for
They are gonna miss a very interesting paper by Dr. Faedo titled Women in Sports Media, Professional Experiences in Argentine Club Press Departments.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Well,
I changed the title a little bit, but that's the main idea. Good morning, everyone. I'm also from Argentina, so I will try to do it as quick as possible, but you know that we love to talk. It seems that after Messi, you still have Argentinian presence here in Catalonia. Well, this is a research that I carried out during a research stay in Argentina during June and July 2025. And well, to give you a brief introduction, we could say that sport journalism has achieved significant social reach in the last at least 20 years, but it's still a field dominated by men. This is something that happens in Spain. That is a place that I also do my research, and also in Argentina. There is some progress, yeah, but inequality persists. Not only media representation, also in media production. So the main idea is to understand and to analyze and figure out if the media situation is the club press situation. So to transform that into objective my main objective is to examine women journalists' perceptions and experience within press departments of Argentinian sports clubs. A few ideas of the theoretical framework, we could say that women are outsiders under their gender, but insiders in terms of adherence to journalistic norms and values. Sometimes also there's a kind of self-exclusion, women that That's something that research says that women avoid sometimes in Argentina and also in Spain to study journalism or sport journalism in particular, in example, in Argentina, for example, because they know that they will have to tolerate a complicated environment if they finally work in the media. And the other idea that press departments are essential for shaping a club's public image, not only for communicate for the clubs, it's also important for their representation. So the methodology, as an Argentinian, I only speak about football, and this research is mainly about football. It's a qualitative approach, 10 semi-structured interviews with women journalists that work in different Argentinian clubs, Boca, River, Independiente, Racing, Estudiantes de La Plata, Huracán, Banfield, Quilmes, my home city, San Lorenzo and Lanús. They are all mostly football clubs, but not all the women interviewed in this research work in the football section. Most of them, yeah, but some of them work in handball, volleyball, and different kinds of sports. The focus through this experience is on life experiences, professional obstacles, and opportunities for recognition. So my main idea to present and to do it as quick as possible was to divide the results and discussion into five sections: gender stereotypes, access to decision-making positions, professional recognition and visibility, strategies for adoption, and redefining the workspace. What I did for this presentation is to select one statement, so I will read one statement per journalist and per club related to what theory says. So, related to gender stereotypes, from Boca, they say, well, the journalist said, sometimes players assume I don't fully understand the rules just because I'm a woman. And this is something that matches or agrees with Bernstein and Kian, that say that female or women sport journalists are often perceived as less informed, and thus reflecting the gender assumptions about their knowledge. What else about the gender stereotypes? People tell me to be more friendly or avoid technical questions as if tactics were not part of my job. This is something that also agrees with Eberbach, for example, who says that newsrooms expect women to be friendly with their audience and also in the newsrooms, and that limits how they can work. From Independiente, some college suggests I should cover lighter stories instead of the main football content. This idea that soft news, hard news, soft news related to news with lower audience, for example, culture sometimes, or for example, women's sports competition, if we talk about football, for example. The hard news in general terms are politics, economics, and if we study or if we work with sport in general terms, we talk about men's football. What else? Talking about the access to decision-making positions, one of the journalists said, I'm part of the press team, but the big decisions are still mostly made by men. And this is something that happens not only in the clubs. I make research here, I do research here, with Raúl Martínez, who is another professor here and researcher at the university. And this is something that always we ask during our interviews with women journalists, and always say the same. And not only the women journalists, also the people that they are part of the leadership positions of the media know that this is something that happened, and it's something that worry a lot, at least to the women. The men in the leadership position, they say that they are worried, but I don't know if it's really true or not. To get promoted, I feel I always need to prove myself more than some male colleagues. This idea of women that they have always to prove themselves that they know about what they are doing, that they know about their job, they know about the sport, the competition, all the time proving this kind of stuff. From Quilmes, Athletes now respect my interviews more. I feel a positive shift compared to previous years. This is related to professional recognition and visibility, because we know that it's complicated for women, but it's not the same if we compare the situation today or nowadays to 20 years ago. We are aware that the situation is not the same. So there's a gradual improvement, not only in the media representation and in the media content production, but also in the press departments in the clubs. Banfield, I get more engagement on social media and people ask for my analysis after matches. This is something that, it was something that I didn't go deeper during these interviews, but it's something that if we go deeper, at least when we did it with Raúl Martínez for different research related to women sport journalists, we know that social media are good platforms for women to have more recognition and visibility, but they suffer a lot of sexual harassment. They suffer a lot of comments, negative comments through social media. So we have to be careful with social media and this idea. Then the idea that from Lanús, I have learned to ask my questions more firmly so that my voice is taken seriously in press conferences. The idea that women also always are planning strategies to work in the media environment and also in the club press situation. And as I wrote here, how women journalists use confident strategies to work in male-dominated places and deal with this kind of gender expectations. I study constantly because expertise helps break stereotypes about women in sport media. This idea that women often rely on a strong technical preparation, the same situation or related to the same. They have to prepare, or it's the same, for example, when we watch or we see on Twitter videos of women's football competition, that's always the funny video, no? They are always looking for the funny video to say, okay, they are not the same, they cannot play football, and that makes that women all the time are trying to prove that they know how to do it, and they are always preparing themselves to work in this kind of places. And finally, one idea of redefining the workspace, because as I said a few minutes ago, even with the challenge, I truly believe we are slowly changing the culture just by being here. This is something that the journalist from Huracan said, but the idea that they are making changes. We cannot say that, okay, the situation is the same, but it is still too far to the real changes. To give you an idea, my PhD thesis was about women journalists working in Marca and Mundo Deportivo, and they sign news, they write more news in 2000, they wrote news, more news in 2010 than in 2022. So that's something that if I ask quickly to any of you, probably you should say, no, they are working more in the press right now. Well, in Marca and Mundo Deportivo, it's not the situation, at least in the newspaper. Some conclusions: that women gain visibility but still face gender barriers, that these structural inequalities persist mainly in decision-making process. This is the place that I think that they will work, or they have to work to change the newsrooms and also the club press situation, and that women are always, all the time, trying to reshape their professional roles. Some limitations: that this small sample limits the generalization. I cannot say that this is something that happens in Argentina. This is something that happens in 10 clubs. Maybe in small clubs, it's not the same situation. Maybe in another province, all these clubs are from Buenos Aires. And Buenos Aires is one of the 23 provinces that we have in Argentina. So maybe if we go to Santa Fe, Rosario, it's a different kind of situation. I don't know. But maybe future research could compare the situation between provinces, or maybe we can compare these dynamics with other cases in different countries. And that's all. Many thanks for your time. And if you have any questions, of course, I'm more than happy to answer them.
For one question.
When you talked about women being pushed towards softer content, and you gave female football as an example. Is that like a perception in the sports world that female football is a soft content versus male football, which is a hard content?
It's a perception, but based on the audience. In general terms, when we talk about soft and hard news, we talk about the relevance for the newspaper and for the audience. And even that women sports competition are gaining visibility, when we talk about audience, men's football competitions attracts a huge audience, more than women. So that's where I say that when we talk about a sport, even it's the same if we talk about football and hockey. Football inside the hard news will be the hard one, and hockey the soft one. Not for an appreciation, from a personal appreciation, but it's what the theory says about hard and soft news. That makes, to be clear, that doesn't means that men's football is more important than women's football. It's not the same. But the audience, and where all the, in general terms, the newspaper and the media or the clubs, these clubs puts the money in, is in men's football competition. So when they have to work with men's football competition, they say, okay, let's keep men working in this section. Yeah, I don't know if I answer your question. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much for the question and for the answer. One more question. Comment on such an interesting research? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Many thanks to all of you.
Noel.
Thank you.
For the presentation.
Thanks.
And the next presentation, our next presenter is Dr. Coll Planas, Gerard Coll Planas.
Good morning, everyone. Well, as you can see, I will talk about tales, and I will start reading a section from this book, this Amb els braços oberts, with open arms, a book aimed at promoting diversity and inclusion. In one of the main part of the book, we can see this. I don't know if you will be able to see it, but if you hear Deepali, I'm from India. If you hear Mohammed, I'm African. If you hear Jocelyn, I'm from Colombia. If you hear Stepanovsky, from Poland. If I say Amanda, I'm from Puerto Rico. If Radulescu, I'm from Romania. If you hear Zveta, I'm from Bulgaria. If my name is Pere Bovill, I might be Romani, Gypsy. If you hear Filipa, I'm Portuguese. If my name is Marc Pladevall, I'm Catalan. Notice how identity in this book is portrayed as something fixed, monolithic, and tied to stereotypical traits. Moreover, Africa is presented as if it were a single country, and the Roma character appears as if being Roma was a nationality. Yeah. Yes, of course. So this reading leads me to my main question, that is, what narratives do we offer to students with migrant backgrounds so they can articulate their identity? Today in Catalonia, migrant background students represent between the 15 and 20% of the classrooms, depending on the region. And research shows that these students often face identity conflicts, feeling that they betray their origins if they feel that they belong here. They don't feel fully accepted as nationals because of racism, or schools often fail to recognize their cultural heritage of their families. French writer Fatima Sissani, of Algerian origin, describe the impact of this cultural marginalization. In her words, we emerged from a void, from a lineage without genealogy. This deprivation was the price we paid to be accepted. Recent studies confirm this challenge. For example, research published in the International Journal of Education Research shows that migrant background students in Catalonia experience identity tensions that affect educational choices. And the PISA report highlights how these conflicts contribute to lower the academic performance and well-being of these students. The book I showed earlier reflects this narrow view of identity, unequivocal and stereotyped. In contrast, Zoom Out, an Erasmus Plus project led by University of Vic with the schools and organizations from Catalonia, Croatia, Italy, and Poland, proposes a different approach. In Catalonia, we specifically work with La Sínia, a school from Vic, and Joan Miró in Barcelona, and many of their students have migrant backgrounds that are struggling with their hybrid identities. The goal of the project is to foster classroom conversations about inequality through children's literature, and one specific objective is to promote more flexible approaches to identity. How do we address this? First, with this handbook, from the page to the context, where we explain our theoretical approach to identities and inequalities. In the toolbox, we gather practical activities to carry out in the classroom. And one of the key activity I wanted to highlight is these identity webs inspired by Sarah K. Ahmed's books, Being the Change. What we like about this methodology is that these identity webs are graphic tools for mapping diverse aspects of identity, origin, language, family, interests. They help students to see that their identity is complex and intersectional, and they are a tool that foster dialogue and empathy in the classroom. And this is some of the identity webs created by the students in our workshops. To conclude, inclusive narratives matter. They help children feel seen, valued, and connected. They shape not only how students understand themselves, but also how we all imagine our communities. So I'd like to leave you with 3 questions. How can we ensure every child finds themselves in the stories we tell? What kind of a storytelling can we offer migrant background students a sense of belonging that embraces all the parts of who they are? And finally, what narratives can we create to question not only who others are, but also who all of us are and who we might become? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gerard. You have finished with 3 questions. I wonder if any one of you would like to say, tell any comment or any question to Gerard on his interesting work on identity and migrant students. You always are able to work on such difficult concepts, such difficult problems, but so it's important to build a stronger society and stronger individuals in a constructive way.
Yeah, and I feel that, as in the example of this book, I think that some of the strategies and materials that we have now to work with these complex issues are not working, or even sometimes are some of the interventions we do regarding equality both in gender or anti-racism, are not working at all, because the situation is super tense in the classrooms, and I think that we need to rethink how we approach this. And this example is this book. This book is really well intended, is about diversity and so on, but for me it's really problematic. And this is only one example of other materials and approaches on equality that are not working anymore. The presentation was so brief, but if you are interested, we have the handbook, the toolbox, and these animations in which we explain, like in 3 short animations, the project and our approach to literature and inequalities in several languages, in 11 languages actually.
Where can they find this? Is it a web page or what?
Yeah, in Zoom Out Project.
Zoom
EU.
Out Project.
Yeah, Zoom Out Project EU, and the animations and all the audiovisual materials are in @intersections in YouTube.
Is it a website?
Yeah, in YouTube, a channel in YouTube.
Would you open it?
Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure about
The website, the web URL. Let's see.
Yeah. So here you have all the resources. Some of them we are still finishing them and will be published shortly. And here you can see the animations and other resources, and yeah, a campaign with posters to be downloaded, and the handbook. And the toolbox will be published before the end of the year.
This is part of an European project, isn't it, Gerard?
Yeah. Yeah, and Erasmus Plus project.
Erasmus Plus.
Yeah.
What are the other universities you are collaborating with?
No, we are the only university.
Okay.
There are like 5 schools and civil society organizations.
Okay. And the 5 schools from 5
Two in
countries?
Catalonia, 1 in Croatia, 1 in Poland, and 1 in Italy.
Right.
With really different backgrounds and realities among them. I think that maybe there's a question there or not.
Yeah. It was just out of my curiosity that you've put a lot of emphasis on how people have to accept their identity inside the context that they're living in. But are you also working into how other people view and accept how we all accept each other, independently of our background or whatever we come from? Like, you made a outside-in perspective, but are you also working in an inside-out perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I'm not sure if I would phrase it like accept who we are, but at least understand what our social position is, and to understand the inequalities that we are facing and that allows us to get to some resources or not, or we have more obstacles or less to do a successful educational career, for example, or is more being aware of the social positions than properly identity. Identity is a really complex concept, as you know, and we could be like doing a super long debate. For us, it's like some parts of our social position become identities and others do not become identities. So it's not just about identities, but how our gender, social class, origin impacts and on our possibilities in life. And we think that it's super important to do this reflection, all the students, but also the teachers in the classroom, for example, and to understand their biases, their stereotypes. So it's an invitation to all of us think who we are and who we could be. Thank you.
I was curious to know if there's like a specific age or age range that you would say that these differences start having an impact on your behavior as a human? So I assume that, you know, when you're very, very young, you maybe don't see these differences, but then they get instilled into you. So do you have any idea?
I think that our social position impacts from the very beginning of our life, because the language we are talking, the how we are touched, our cultural references, the stories we are told. So this is impacting us from the very beginning. Another thing is how we can address this issue specifically in the classroom, for example. And I think that we need to be really careful to see what are the discourses that are understandable and in different ages. And for us, it's very important. In all the activities we propose, we suggest to be fully aware of what your classroom needs, what's happening in your classroom. It's not about when you are 10, you have to do that. When you are 12, you have to do that. It's not about that. It's to provide resources so you can see what's happening, what are the conflicts, what are the realities, and then to address them. And not doing it beforehand. I mean, for example, if gender stereotypes are not a problem at in a classroom of 6-year-old children, don't talk about gender stereotypes, because you will create the stereotypes. You will inform students that there are things that are supposed to be for boys and things that are supposed to be from girls. And maybe this is not happening at the moment in the classroom. They are probably, maybe they can be more free, they are experimenting, and then you go to tackle this issue and do you know what I mean? You establish the norm, no? So you have to wait. Is there any problem because there's a non-normative boy that is being bullied? Then is the moment. If not, maybe it's not the moment yet. So I think that we need to be very careful and to do a really good analysis of the context to see when and how do the interventions. But the impact is from the very beginning of being alive.
Thank you very much for your questions and for the answer, Gerard. Well, we should move on to the next presenter. Thank you very much, Gerard.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Aliretsa Desfoli, who is, if I am not wrong, a doctoral student in our university, maybe in the Faculty of Education. Yes. Aliretsa. Let me open the presentation. Okay, thank you very much for your attention to the audience. We have students from Global Studies, don't we? Who are collaborating actively with the conference, for what we are very grateful for your active role. I think you are going to do the summary at the end. Great, thank you. Okay, our next presenter is Aliretsa Desfoli. He's a doctoral student from the Faculty of Education?
Yes.
Okay. And he is going to present us the paper titled Immigration Stories in Movies in the 21st Century, a quantitative analysis of representation and themes.
All right, thank you. It's 12:09, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ali Reza Desfuli, and I'm here as a PhD student. Our work with two other colleagues, you can see their names here, Ms. Maral Rezairad and Ms. Zahra Ali Nejad, who are currently in Iran. They couldn't make it here, so I'm presenting this work on behalf of every one of them. Our work is a quantitative analysis of representation and themes on immigration stories in movies in the 21st century. By 21st century, I mean starting from 2000 until 2025. So let's get started. Our research explores migration as both a social reality and a storytelling theme. We wanted to see what kinds of migration stories dominated modern cinema, whether gender influences the tone or outcome of the movie, or if the representation patterns have shifted. For example, there is a movie named The Kite Runner, which is 2007. It's a drama movie in which there's a male as the protagonist, as the main role. And we have the movie Brooklyn 2015, which is a romantic drama with a female protagonist. These movies both deal with migration, but their tones and endings differ significantly, one tragic and one hopeful. So the key questions here are, what types of migration dominate these stories? How do gender and migration type relate to narrative tone and outcomes? And how have representation patterns evolved over these years, over these 25 years? Okay. So migration cinema has evolved from national to transnational narratives. The Nafisi's ideas of accented cinema refers to film expressing hybrid identities. Male-centered stories like Sin Nombre, 2009, which was a thriller with a male lead, emphasize the dangers and the risks, while female-led films such as Maria Full of Grace, 2004, which was a drama female-led movie, highlights agency and survival. Few studies have systematically quantified this representational pattern. So all the studies that we have so far are usually based on just one or two movies. They have always been qualitative studies. So they take a movie, they talk about every scene, they talk about every pattern, what happens, they talk about different roles, the main roles, the side roles. But what we tried to do, what the gap was actually a quantitative study that checks the pattern, what happens in general among most of the movies. Okay. We use quantitative content analysis. As I've already told you, we coded 100 movies that feature migration as a central theme, not something that happens in just one part of the movie. Some examples would include The Swimmers, 2022, which was a biographical drama with a female lead. His House, 2020, which was a horror drama. There was a couple, so we can call it a mix. Lo Capitano, 2023, which was a realist drama with a male lead. And each film was coded independently by two researchers to check the reliability, and the reliability was above 0.8. We check the protagonist gender, the migration type, the narrative tone, the representation focus, and the story outcome. The movies were selected from 32 countries. More or less, there were 117 movies, but the information about all of them was not available. So more or less, we had the information for about 100 movies. We took the information from IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, and European Audiovisual Observatory. For the analysis, we use SPSS version 29. We did the descriptive statistics. We did the chi-square test for gender versus migration, type, and outcome. We did the goodness of fit for the representation imbalance, and we did the Friedman test to check the trends between 2000 and 2025. And since all the materials and all the data and the information were available online, and there wasn't any human as a participant in this research, we didn't have to follow the ethical and the rules. Okay. So going to the nice part of each research, the results and what we found. As you can see, nearly 60% of migration films featured male protagonists, 59, because there were only 100 movies, so the numbers represent the percentage at the same time. And it confirmed a persistent imbalance. For example, A Better Life, a movie made in 2011, which was a drama with a male lead, and Mediterranean, which was 2015, again, drama with male lead. And female-led films include, for example, The Immigrants, 2013, and Goodbye Julia. And mixed and assembled stories like Human Flows and The Good Lie, 2014, are much rarer to find. As you can see, migration stories are told mostly through male perspectives still. To talk about migration types, over half of the films portray refugee or economic migration, with 29% for refugee and 27% for economic. Some examples include The Kite Runner, Sin Nombre, and The Swimmers. Diaspora and return stories like Brooklyn and Namesake are still not very popular. Internal migration films such as Goodbye Julia reflect domestic displacement and cultural conflict. So one more time, over half of the movies were related to refugee and economics. To talk about the narrative tone, tragic and realist tones dominate, particularly in refugee and forced migration films. Some examples would be Capernaum and A Better Life. Reflecting or optimistic tones appear in movies such as Brooklyn 2015, L'Havre, and this tonal imbalance shows that cinema often frames migration as crisis rather than an opportunity. So all in all, almost 60% of the movies had a tragic or realistic theme. And here we see a clear gender optimism gap. Male-led stories like Mediterranean and La Paroisse, and tragically or ambiguously, sorry about my French pronunciation, I don't speak French really. So, and tragically and ambiguously are related to male-led movies, and for females, female-led films such as The Swimmers and Brooklyn, usually the conclusions are more positive. This reflects cultural expectation, men's migration as extremely struggling and women's as inner transformation. From 2000 to around 2019, migration cinema was dominated by male protagonists. However, after 2020, we see a sharp increase in
data with something like logistical regression, where you have like the dependent variable is the gender, and it allows you to include the others to see moderation, or if you have any thoughts about how if there is any moderation, mediation, or something.
The part related to the data was done by one of my colleagues. And we were really short on time because we decided to complete this research like 1 month before this conference. So we didn't have enough time to complete the whole thing, but that's a very good suggestion for the next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the explanation. I was some question regarding the criteria of selection of the sample, because I saw many films from the last year. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yes, we selected the movies that the main topic of which was immigration, because there were a lot of movies in which, for some minutes, we see the theme, but it wasn't the main theme. We just selected the movies whose theme was only about migration. And we could select the movies, the information of which was publicly available on websites such as IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
When you selected, and you said that the protagonist gender is the majority of men, male protagonists. If you compare it to the general movie production, is it the same?
Yeah, we did.
Is it the same
did a
percentage?
research, yes, 2 years ago, and that research was about the whole movie telling. It was about the recaps, the summary of the movies that were told by YouTubers. I presented the paper on Storytelling Conference 2023, and yes, it was more or less the same number.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the question. No, thank you very much, Andresa, for your questions in the Q&A. Our last two presentations are going to be online. We are all ears.
Thank you very much. So I am sorry for this bad quality of connection. I try to do my best. I am in the room, apparently with good connection. I am going to present this study case about the evolution from criticism to renewal of the image of the reputation of the Spanish Parliament related to transparency and good government. And this is, from my point of view, a case of storytelling and a case of reveal the story about the perception of the transparency in the Spanish Parliament. Spanish Parliament and mainly Congreso de los Diputados face a crisis of trust since the first report of Greco. Greco is the Council of Europe body for the investigation and scrutiny of transparency, good government, and fight against corruption. Since 2013, Greco produced 3 consecutive reports with a high level of criticism about the behavior and the level of good governance and transparency of the Spanish Parliament. First one from 2013, a short quote about the cultural of opacity related the website and the rules of the Spanish Parliament. The second one from 2018, reforms concerning MPs remain fragmentary and delayed. And the last one from 2023. The core issues of these concerns was about no lobby regulation, no legal frame about how the sectors of interest, the different representation of sectors of interest are related, and the frames for relation with MPs and government in the Spanish Parliament. The second about the weak control of assets and interest. And the last one about lack of independent oversight of this regulation. This is the fragmented reforms that the Spanish government and the Parliament took since 2019, no before. And remember that the first criticisms came from 2013. On 2019, a not easy year in terms of political life in Spain because it was two consecutive elections, early parliamentary elections in Spain. Already the parliament adopted this code of conduct. Everything, it's stopped in 2020 for pandemic. And in 2023, the government, not the parliament, took the initiative to foster this law about the people, the anonymous denouncement and the protection of these people. Even after this new law, Greco keep the sentence partial compliance, limited impact. They were in front of a clear problem about these reactive steps and not systematic reforms in the light with the European standards. In 2024, the Congreso de los Diputados, not the whole Cortes Generales, not the Senate, the Congreso de los Diputados took the initiative to foster a comprehensive reform of transparency in the parliament and announced this open parliament 2024-2027, but this plan is only adopted in 2025. This plan has 5 pillars: transparency, participation. I can see in this moment this pillar: integrity and accountability, awareness and training inside MPs and civil servants in the parliament, and government related with the implementation of these new rules. The goal was to rebuild trust and reframe the story, absolutely to reframe the story, to reverse the story, to present a successful story about transparency in the Spanish parliament. The turning point is this year, January this year, 2025, when in a very fast calendar in compare with the usual timetable in the parliament, according with checks and balance, revisions, and second lectures, the first draft of the plan was presented and adopted on January 16, provided by the Secretary General of the Parliament, according with the political guidelines and instructions. And only 14 days later was the deadline for the submission of inputs from the political parties already represented in the board of the Parliament. In less than 15 days, less half month, was the fulfilling of the contributions for this reform. And the final approval came from March 18 this year, 2025. It's important to underline about the storytelling of this case that in the board of the Spanish Parliament, it means in the Mesa del Congreso de los Diputados, the presidential board and the organizative board of the Parliament are represented 3 political parties: Socialist Party, Conservative Party, Popular Party, and the Leftist Party, namely Sumar. And it's important, this data, for the consensual case that I will present later on. So this is the criticism in one column, and this is the response from the board of the Parliament. It's a quite relevant goodwill. We'll see if all of this will be implemented in the next month, because it's already late, according with the plan 2024 to 2027, publishing agendas of the parliamentarians, roll call votes, amendments. This is very important because until now, and for years and years, the so-called transactional amendments between 2 or more original amendments are not clear about in which base are constructed and are produced. The creation of a register of interest groups, the lobbying groups, the launch of electronic citizen office. In this moment, the right to participation, the right of derecho de súplica is a very old-fashioned way to take part in the deliberation. And another measure is to add trainings and civic education for citizens and for members of parliament and staff and political and civil servants. As well, governance evaluation, external evaluation for open government officers. What about the narrative about this shift? We are facing a classical case of a storytelling based in a new construction. From this opaque reality for years and years to this new branch market has European champions of transparency. The language of this is responsibility, openness, participation, and the story repair from a deficit to a renewed presentation of the political will. The paradox of this consensus that in this mandate, in the political frame of the Spanish legislative works in this mandate, when polarization is very strong and when confrontation almost exists in every detail in the political life in Spain, everyone celebrates the openness, and the decision was adopted by consensus, by unanimity in the board of the parliament and apparently among the different political parties in the parliament. And this presents not only a paradox, only present some kind of criticism, because the three political parties didn't perform as well in the past. About the Conservative Party, who took the presidency of the Cortes, the Congress, the Parliament, for 2 consecutive mandates during this criticism, with 2 different speakers, Mr. Posada and Mrs. Pastor. Now, stricter measures, present even more strict measures, despite the past opacity, and responsibility on it. The Socialist Party as well now are leading the reform of transparency and supports the plan after inaction since the presidency 2019. And the other party represent in the board, Sumar, endorse without prior push and without prior priority in the political program and in the political narrative and in the political visibility about narrative from this political party. So this accountability, this pending accountability in the past turned into a shared redemption now in this year. And about theory and about storytelling and governance, we can say that this story, it's a governance tool in this moment to present the reforms. This is a typical case of performative transparency. In this moment, we are only in the stage of the performative transparency, because nothing is implemented for the moment, but the perception in some quite political sectors of the society is that is already adopted the measures of this plan. And this plan and this performative transparency presents a legitimacy builds in the action aligned and in the political actors. Moving to the theoretical framing, we can say, according with Austin's literature, that when saying something, we are doing something. And this is the case about the apparently new transparency in the parliament. The plan's approval, it means an act of institutional speech, but for the moment, not a real and factual implementation of these new wills, political wills. Or we can say, following Butler, that acts constitute what they name. And the perception is another one according with the theory of communication. Parliament performs openness to become open. This institutional bill legitimates stories meaning. And in these 3 stages, from deficit to narrative and reform, the parliament is only in the second stage, in the narrative. They didn't reform in detail, but the perception is following the theory that the performative transparency could be even perceived as a real transparency and a real reforms. And this is all from my side. I hope you can hear a little bit of my presentation, and I remain at your disposal for comments or questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jordi. Okay, we have time for just one question to our colleague, Jordi Shukla.
Now I can hear you well. This is the opposite.
You cannot hear me?
Now, yes.
Jordi?
Okay. Now, yes.
Okay. I was asking to the audience who is a little bit tired.
I can understand.
They are okay. If they have any question, if not, we will move on. Any question? Yes, please. What is your name?
Hello.
Anna?
Yes.
You just said, oh. Could write it off if it's okay. Okay, no. Do you think that all parties accepted this reform as a strategy to avoid criticism, or is it actually a will to more transparency?
Thank you for the question. Obviously, the Spanish Parliament had a pending case to reform since years and years. So my perception is that the first option is the right option, is just to avoid criticism, but as well is just to fulfill some pending issues, some pending business, to increase, to move the Parliament to the frame of the European standards about transparency. What happened briefly is that in order to set up, in order to assure a strong political system in Spain after the Franco dictatorship, the legislative and the constitution, the first mandate in the Parliament decided to strongly support a closed list political party systems. And in the frame of these closed list political party systems was much more easy to avoid some reforms and even to increase the transparency. So at the end of the day, these reforms came much more from the pressure of international organizations, mainly Council of Europe, mainly this group fighting for and evaluating good governance, Greco, the Greco body in the Council of Europe, that for internal pressure, even not from internal pressure from different political parties. So even from opposition parties or from parties that underline the importance of transparency and good governance, that underline this good governance and the idea of open government in the executive branch, didn't push and didn't propose anything for the parliamentarian branch.
Right. Thank you for the question. Thank you for the answer, Dr. Shukla. We should move on to the next one. Our best regards, Jordi, to danger, Ukraine.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best. See you soon.
See you soon. So our last but not least presentation is also online, and the researcher is Mariano Carrasco, I think also from the south, but in the Iberian Peninsula, Malaga, if I am not wrong. Mariano?
Yes, you're correct.
Also, if I am not wrong, a doctoral student at university. Is linguistics. Mariano?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Excellent.
So, are you in Malaga, Mariano?
Yes, I am.
Great. Josep, el podríem veure? Mariano, take control of the screen, please.
Sure.
Hi, Mariano.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah. Is this your presentation? Okay.
It will be, yeah. It should be.
Yeah, we can see it perfectly. So, Mariano, your presentation titling diversity, queer and storytelling, the ethics of inclusion in the AJ and the Queen. You ready?
Absolutely. Let's go for it.
Okay. Please, go ahead.
Hi, hello everyone. This presentation comes from a broader doctoral project on queer audiovisual translation, and here I focus especially on how the Spanish subtitles of AJ and the Queen handle Cam Talk. a register that is playful, excessive, intertextual, and deeply tied to queer identity. My starting point is very simple. When you translate camp, you're not just transferring words, you're handling affect, gesture, community, and visibility. Subtitling becomes a form of storytelling, and therefore a site where inclusion or exclusion is actively produced. AJ and the Queen is an ideal case base. The series builds a narrative through drag performance, humor, and emotional excess, all key dimensions of Camp Talk. Camp Talk relies on theatrical intonation, ironic exaggeration, and coded references that speak directly to queer communities. My interest was to understand what happens when this stylistic density is moved into subtitles. Why? Because subtitling is often treated as a neutral process, but in highly performative registers such as camp, subtitling become an ideological operation. Here, I frame subtitling as social storytelling. It shapes who's visible, who is recognizable, and how identities are mediated in multilingual circulation. Ultimately, the question is, does subtitling preserve queer expressivity, or does it tone it down? And what are the ethical consequences of that? Before going into technical analysis, I want to introduce the lens of inclusion. I use inclusion in a very specific sense, not just representation, but recognition of difference. In translation, inclusion means acknowledging that styles linked to marginalized groups deserve to be preserved, even when they challenge norms of neutrality, fluency, or naturalness. Subtitling decisions have political effects because they determine how queer identities are framed. Following authors like Venuti, Spasa, or Martinez Pleguezuelos, I treat subtitling as an ethical practice, one that can either reinforce normativity or open space for forms of life that are culturally marginalized. Camp Talk is therefore a perfect test for inclusion ethics. It's playful, excessive, and it's deeply political in its style. The study focuses on the Peninsular Spanish subtitles available on Netflix. I analyzed 3 episodes, 1, 6, and 10, to have a beginning, middle, and end of the narrative arc. From this corpus, I formulated 2 research questions. The first one is how the performative and effective features of Camp Talk transfer to Spanish. And the second, how do translation strategies shape the performative density of Camp Talk and its inclusion or exclusion in the Spanish subtitles? This question looks not only at stylistic transfer, but also at how subtitling decisions reconfigure visibility, recognition, and queer expressivity. I will briefly define Camp Talk. It blends theatricality, irony, exaggeration, intertextual references, and affection. Camp Talk performs identity. It is a way of narrating oneself through style. Keith Harvey calls it a form of linguistic excess that destabilizes normative discourses. In a visual context, Camp Talk is multimodal. It is in the gesture, the rhythm, the tone, the drag aesthetics. This makes Camp Talk extremely vulnerable in subtitling because subtitles only capture one modality, the verbal one. So the question becomes, can subtitles hold the performative weight? Methodologically, I use a qualitative case study based on yin and color. This approach allows me to analyze translation in context, not as isolated strings of text. I carried out a multimodal close reading. I align the original lines with the Spanish subtitles. I consider gesture, timing, tone, and visual cues. I classified each case according to strategies and techniques from Venuti, Molina and Hurtado, Harvey, and recent queer translation scholarship like Villanueva Jordan. The goal was not to produce statistics, but to trace how stylistic effects move, shift, or disappear across languages. Let me now summarize the procedures I identified. The first strategic option is foreignization, following Venuti. Foreignization preserves cultural references, queer appellative, and stylistic eccentricity. This allows a subtitle to keep difference visible, and in many cases, it maintains the communal, playful voice of camp talk. The second strategic option is domestication, which adapts expressions to target language norms. Domestication improves fluency, but risks erasing intertextuality, irony, or queer-coded markers. Finally, in this block, we have omission, a subtitling technique often justified by space or timing. However, in camp talk, omitting expressive particles like girl or playful exaggerations can significantly reduce performativity. Here, I focus on three fully technical choices. Compensation, which redistributes expressive force when a stylistic element cannot stay in its original position. Creative adaptation, which recreates humor or theatricality through cultural meaning, meaningful Spanish reformulation. And stylistic neutralization, which simplifies tone, irony of affective excess, reducing the performative density of camp talk. These techniques show how much stylistic work is done at the micro level of subtitling and how each choice shapes the presence or absence of queer expressivity. Several risks appear in the analysis. The most frequent are omission and neutralization. Small expressive markers, especially intertextual jokes or affective particles, often disappear. These are not small losses. Camp talk works precisely through texture, tone, and excess, and when these elements disappear, so does part of the queer voice. Intertextuality is particularly fragile. Musical references, drag culture codes, or ironic comparisons often get flattened. This reduces visibility, flattens identities, and softens the political edge of camp talk. But the study also identifies ways subtitling can support inclusion. Foreignization allows camp talk to remain camp. By keeping cultural references, flamboyant tone, or drag expression, the subtitle preserves the communal and resistant voice of the characters. Creative adaptation can resolve untranslatable moments by generating culturally meaningful equivalents. Compensation can restore humor, rhythm, or agency in other parts of the line. Together, these techniques show that translators have tools to sustain queer expressivity even within technical constraints. To conclude, I return to the ethics of inclusion. Subtitling is a form of storytelling, and storytelling is always political. The question is not only what is translated, but how do these choices affect the visibility of marginalized identities? Translating camp talk means navigating excess, irony, theatricality, and affection. It requires linguistic creativity and cultural sensitivity. My findings suggest that subtitling can either neutralize queer voices or help sustain them across languages. This makes subtitling a site of ethical responsibility, one where translators negotiate recognition, difference, and community. Ultimately, subtitling diversity is not just about accessibility, it's about narrating difference, affirming queer voices, and making sure the style as a form of life is not lost in translation. Thank you.
Right, we have
couple of minutes for one question or comment. I think there are no questions. Mariano, maybe one. Please. Mariano, we are giving the microphone to the student who is going to make you a question.
Hello. Okay. So I was curious as to like what research has been done into the structure of this camp talk or queer language in Spanish. Like, what are the particularities of Spanish queer language?
Well, the actual research has been investigated quite a lot. Has been into research quite a lot, but there's been a focus on Spanish, South American Spanish, not so much into Spanish from Spanish Peninsula, the Iberian Peninsula. So that is what is one of the main reasons why I focus on that one.
Thank you for the answer. So Mariano, thank you very much for your participation.
Thank
you and for all the participants, including the keynotes and the following of the panel. We will edit proceedings book afterwards. We will contact you all to propose you to participate in the book with a chapter. So thank you, Mariano. Just another applause to Mariano. And this concludes our paper presentation session incredibly on time. Thank you to all presenters for your contributions and to the patient audience for your attention and your participation. We will now proceed with the discussion panel chaired by our colleague Manel Arribas, and the participants are Olga, Anna, and Ada. So please, if you could come to prepare the panel. I think not Olga, but Anna and Ada have a presentation. So I'm going to open it in the screen.
We're going to start this discussion panel. Good afternoon to everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome this. It's a pleasure to welcome Ana Olga Lozano, Ana Sagrera, and Ado Domingo to this discussion panel. This discussion panel is focused in the three main pillars of sustainability that are energy efficiency, that are social impacts, and also sustainable governance. We're going to try to discuss all of these issues with three experts in different fields that are, it seems that they are isolated, but actually related. So we're going to discuss different things from different perspectives, but that at the same time are totally related and interconnected. First of all, I'm going to start by introducing all of these members of the panel. I'm going to start presenting and introducing to Olga. Welcome, Olga. Olga is she's an expert in energy saving certificates. She's an expert in energy efficiency. She's an industrial engineer. She studied in the UPC University in Barcelona as well. You hold a specific master specialized in energy management, in energy engineering, energy engineering. You're working in the industry.
You are working in the industry so far, no? You are currently the head of energy efficiency. You are working in the conglomerate Argal Group. Argal Group is a food big, important multinational in Spain, and especially you're working in a boutique Monel. Okay. You have a wider experience, I think, working in one of the main top companies, Swiss companies, SGS, okay, which is really specialized in everything related to inspection, verification, testing, and certification of energy savings, energy certificates, etc. No? This is very important because you have achieved a relevant reputation on these fields. No? This allows you to get officially qualified. She is officially qualified by the UA, the European Union Emissions Trading System. No? You can audit currently and verify companies' CO2 emissions, which is something very important nowadays, no? Very related to energy savings and energy certificates. No? So welcome, Olga. We would like to listen to your points. And then I would like to introduce as well, Ana Sagrera. No? Hello, Ana. It's a pleasure to welcome you in this important event. Ana is a food engineer. You are a food engineer, no? You have a master's degree focused on ionological issues. We talk about science of wine, the science of wine, which is nowadays a relevant topics in our country, especially, no? You have a lot of expertise in terms of local food systems, no? So to develop local food systems in terms of agricultural issues, no? Building community, no? In terms of achieve sustainable farming, etc. No? This is very important nowadays in our context, no? You have been a consultant, and you have been advising companies as well. As far as I know, you are also a researcher, okay? You spend a lot of time researching, no? And she's nowadays focus your studies, your research is focused on evaluating the social impacts within sustainable projects. No? What are the social impacts, no, on those communities in this context by these specific projects that you are developing in the Beta Technological Center. No? So it is a pleasure. No? You are nowadays also, she is leading a project, European Research and Development Project. You are leading the Food Loss Understanding Project, no? You are coordinating this project, no? Contributing to agroeconomic issues, no? To enhance this sustainability in local food systems in this local context, no? Which is very interesting as well, no? So welcome, Ana. And then finally, we have with us Ada Domingo. It's a pleasure, Ada, to welcome you as well. Ada has a different background, no? You come from international relations. Ada, it's focused also on your expertise in geopolitics as well. And you are really focused on research. Okay, you are nowadays, you are working as well in technological and Beta Technological Center at UVic, and you belong to the research group of governance and sustainability, no? You are leading an important project in this university, which is the project of Science for Diplomacy. Okay, you are the coordinator. Okay, which means they are fostering initiatives in order to enhance cooperation, okay, between countries, especially those emerging countries, developing countries, in which science is underdeveloped, in which science, so you are fostering these types of collaboration and cooperations in order to foster science, to enhance this cooperation and to transmit knowledge, no? Which is very important, no? You as well are leading a Horizon European project, no? Which is quite good, okay? Focus on capacity building, okay? And research and innovation development. No, you also at the same time has a European Union acquis alignment. No, you are helping countries, no, to develop science, no, to develop this transformation in terms of science, no, the role of science, no, in this exchange, no, of knowledge, in this promotion of sustainability, no, basically in the circular bioeconomy, no, in these transitions, especially for those difficult situations in these countries that they have a conflict, no, etc., like Turkey or like Ukraine, no, and I'm right, no. So we're going to start. We have prepared several questions for them. Okay, I will start by Olga. Okay, we would like to ask you an issue related to energy efficiency. No, we are interested in the energy saving certificate system. No, especially, no, nowadays companies to reach or excellence in terms of energy excellence or energy efficiency, companies need to invest a lot of money. Because at the end, you need to invest. Why you need to invest? Because you have to renovate installations, you have to accommodate buildings, you have to change manufacturing processes, etc. No, this means that you need a lot of investment, and then this means that, well, do you think that this certificate provide a significant return on investments for companies? What do you think? What's your perception? No. Or it's just when we're talking about this certification, it's just a storytelling, or it's just a formality, or it's not, or it's more than this. It's more than about to talk about story doing, no, which means something tangible, no, talking about returns, no. What are your perceptions, Olga?
For this kind invitation to the conference. So now about what you're asking me. As you know, in the European Union, we have the goal to achieve the net zero for the 2050. And this means also that the member states need to take several measures to make this possible. So if we want that the enterprises and the companies invest in energy efficiency, so we achieve these goals and reduce our carbon footprint, it is absolutely necessary that this is a profitable business. So we need that the payback of the measures and the actions that companies make has to be the payback period has to be as short as possible. So in 2023, in Spain, started a new mechanism that allows companies to monetize the energy savings. It is the CAES system, which is those energy efficiency certificates. So here in Spain, there are some companies that we will call them the obligated parties, like that are all the companies that supply energy, for example, Repsol, Iberdrola, Gas Natural. All these companies have to pay an amount of money to the National Energy Efficiency Fund, and with this money, this fund uses all this money to do grants in the different companies. They make energy efficiency actions. The quantity of money they had to pay to the National Energy Efficiency Fund until 2023 was fixed. It was always it's a quantity that each year you have to pay a value times the quantity of energy they put in the market. With the CAES system, they open a new way to pay this money. They can pay the money they had to pay until 2023, but they also can buy the energy savings to different companies or particulars to a price that is lower than what they have to pay until 2023. So with the CAES system, we have a new system that you can make energy efficiency actions, and you can earn money for these energy efficiency actions, a part of the savings you can have with the action. In fact, it's the first time that they pay you for the savings you have. Not they, in general, a grant, they pay a percentage of the investment you make. With this, with the CAES system, they pay you the quantity of energy you save times a price. And in fact, this has been from 2023, and the quantity it depends on the energy you save. So there are lots different. It's not the answer. The question you made me of how many you can perceive. It depends. You can perceive between the 30% or 20% of the investment for a lighting measure, but also with heat pumps or with energy recovery. There are lots of actions that they have paid about 80% or even more than the investment the company has done. I think so much, more or less. I think it's just that until now they paid you a grant, which was difficult to obtain. There's a lot of bureaucracy, and with the CAES system, it's a lot more easier. It's a way that doing energy efficiency, you can receive money. Even there are for different sectors. I'm used to work with industrial sector, but also with transport. For example, nowadays, if you change your car of oil by an electric car, this action is in the CAES system, and you can perceive a quantity of money for this action.
Let me ask you one more question about what do you think are nowadays, the most pivotal, important actions in terms of energy, What do you think are the most relevant, to achieve these high numbers, What do you think?
So with the CAES system, in fact, there are two kinds of actions: what they call the singular actions and the standard actions. With the standard actions, there are in the law, in the legislation, there are I don't know, about 20, no, maybe more, maybe 50 kinds of action that are typificated, and there are a standard action. It's something that you can reply, and you have the same way to calculate the energy savings for the action. The typical one maybe is the substitution of lighting, of conventional lighting, but by LED lighting. Also, there are isolating pipes of steam pipes, or in industries, you can have also a very big savings. In refrigeration systems, there's also a big savings, because the performance of the machines have changed a lot, and now you can changing a refrigerator, a chiller. You can have here. I have some example, but changing a chiller, 2 chillers in an industry was 163,000 euros of investment. With the CAES system, they perceived 55,000 euros. So it was the 34% of the investment just paid. And you have to take account also that this action has energy savings. So this is for the first year you receive this CAES, but after this action, you will pay less money with the electrical invoice, because this is more efficient than what you had before. So the CAES system help a lot of companies to reduce their energy, to promote the energy efficiency, to reduce their carbon footprint, and nowadays more executives and managers of the companies when they have their plan of investments, they have to study which of the actions can be profitable for the CAE system.
Thanks a lot, Olga. And now from energy waste, I would like to ask to Anna a question, Anna Sagrera. Well, we have to talk now about the second pillar in terms of sustainability, which are the social impacts, no? How do you assess? How do you measure the social impacts? No, this is one. Okay, you are carrying out different projects at Beta Technological Center. You are implementing several projects, but at the end, how do you measure them? No, and what are the main indicators? No, we should take into account when assessing these special issues. No, in terms of impacts of those sustainable projects on society and local communities. No, we would like to know more or less. No, or what social indicators should companies consider? No, when they have to implement these social projects. No, what's relevant for them? No, thank you.
Do you want me to answer this now or later, the questions? Now? Yeah, I think that maybe later, because we are going to see like how everything goes. Yeah. So, yeah, is it working, the microphone? Okay. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so let's get started. We are going to talk about sustainable systems. But before, think of sustainable impacts as a three-stage journey. It starts with research, creating scientific knowledge at universities and research centers. Then this research is translated into projects, initiatives, solutions, interventions in the real world. And then these projects, solutions, innovations, interventions create impact. I mean, they transform the society. But although this pathway seems straightforward, it's not that easy, especially the final step, the social impact, because it's really complex. And now you are going to see why. So why measuring is important? We have three answers for that. First, with measurement, we can improve specific variables that help us to track these improvements. But also, without measurement, we risk to have some complex or difficulties in understanding what's happening. And also having this data can help us to protect human well-being. Yeah, I have the right slide. Yeah, but we have some social challenges in here, because the thing is that social sciences are really complex, are really interrelated. It depends a lot on human behavior, cultural context, economic systems, and they are really related in a very complicated way. So measuring that, it's not that easy as it can seem. And that's why we follow the, yeah, I'm going to put my presentation as well on my screen. So that's why we follow the life cycle assessment, that it's one framework that it's broadly used in the sustainable sciences to analyze the social impact of it. But the thinking here is that traditionally life cycle assessment was used for analyzing the environmental impacts. Then the life cycle costing for the economic impacts was developed. And then we recognize the need of having this third dimension, because we cannot talk of sustainability without talking of social impacts. The complex thing in here as well is that methodology is still under development and it's not standardized a lot. So that's something that it answers your question here. And also,
the main question of the life cycle assessment is how we can establish these cause-effects relationships between our actions and the social effects that and the social impacts that we measure. In other words, how we can prove that our actions have social effects that we can see. So this is really complex. As I mentioned before, it has a lot of multiple variables. It has a lot of complexity. And also here, another complexity is that we often see some time lags between the actions and the social impacts. For instance, a policy is implemented today, and the social effects or the social impacts of it can be shown for years. So maybe you cannot see these social effects now. You are going to see them in 5 years. So this is also a complexity of this science. Now I'm going to show you a real case study of real world social analysis. That it's the project in which I'm working. So this is a bit of a context. Globally, approximately 1/3 of food is either wasted or lost every year. So this has a lot of economical, environmental, and social impacts, of course. But I would like to highlight that here we are talking about real social impacts, real problems affecting real people, affecting our farmers, affecting our communities, affecting us as consumers, for instance, and so on. And that's why in this context, the Follow project was born. Is a project that is an Horizon Europe founded project that started 4 years ago in 2023, and it's a 4-year project that started with the aim to measure and estimate, monitor and report and assess the impact, meaning environmental, economic, and social, that's really brand new, of food losses at primary stage, meaning farm losses. So this project is still ongoing. We are developing different activities that revolve around 4 levels of change: understanding, measuring, training, and adopting. So first, we want to understand what are food losses, what causes food losses, and the impacts of food losses. Then we need to measure food losses because we need data to see what we are talking about. And finally, of course, we need to train different stakeholders that are involved in this case, in the agri-food supply chain. And then, of course, we need policies. We are going to develop policy recommendations to make people adopt these outcomes. So in this context we consider that is a good example of how we can develop and how we can apply social impact measurement in practice is that, 2 weeks ago, we organized a workshop in which we gathered 2 different communities that they are really related, but they don't speak that much to each other, that are social LCA experts and agri-food practitioners. And the question that was launched at that workshop was how we can measure social impacts of food losses, meaning losses, food that is lost on farm, how we can measure these social impacts, because it's really complex. And the amazing thing in here is that although they are not, they are connected, but they don't, like I mentioned before, they are not, don't have that much connection between them. They don't speak too much. The amazing thing is that they they work in collaboration and they co-created together a list of indicators. And also, not only that, they prioritized all of these indicators that measure social impacts. And that was amazing. For instance, that the set of indicators that they prioritized were food security, were income, the income of the people, were also the efficiency of the agri-food system, also the instability of work that food losses may cause, and all of these amazing things. You can see on the screen, you can see more of the reflections that appeared on that workshop that are really interesting, but I'm not going to talk about it now. But I think that it was pretty good to have this interaction and to build this set of indicators all together. But I need to be honest with you, it's not a bed of roses. I mean, we are far from finished. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We have a lot of challenges in this social work. First, we need the standardization of this social impact measurement because it's a new science, it's a new methodology, and we need a standardization of it. Also, we need to gather different stakeholders because this is we need to gather all of them, but this is time consuming, and also it requires a lot of human resources. Also, the data available and the data quality of it depends a lot on the territorial scale, territorial levels, and it's really complex as well. And finally, there's the need to link these social impacts with policies and decision-making implementations, because if not, we will keep this only in research. So this is a call for you, Ada, in here. And finally, I would like to end up my presentation because I think that it's interesting with the lessons learned. I mean, we are laying the foundation stone, but it's not perfect, we know. But I would like here to give a big shout out to the need of the interdisciplinary in this field. We need to gather natural sciences, social sciences, economics, practical experience as well. We also need collaborative work between all the different stakeholders, in this case, of the agri-food chain. And finally, we need to be iterative. We need to develop a method, test that method, see what doesn't work, and then refine it. And just as a final message, in the social field, and especially in the social field, perfection is the enemy of good. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. And I would like to ask you one question, which is about how can we convince companies not to include these social indicators in their dashboards, as part of pivotal elements, to measure the performance of a company,
Yeah, sure. Now, just like to say something, I mean, here at Beta, we worked only with environmental and economic impact assessment, and now we are incorporating the social part because, in fact, companies are asking for that because we are talking about social acceptance. I mean, of course, we know that something generates greenhouse emission, water, uses water resources, and of course, it costs an amount of money. But of course, the social part is the driven changing part. So you need to incorporate this, and you cannot talk about sustainability without talking about that. And especially if you want to people to take action, you need to incorporate them. And this is also related with policies. You need this third wheel in that part, and companies are asking for that. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your insights. Well, then for Ada Domingo, you have already prepared a presentation. Well, I would like to ask you, nowadays the role of science, why science is really important, the exchange of knowledge, exchange of science, to promote the transformation of countries, to promote the transformation of societies, I mean, nowadays we are talking about other environmental decisions, but the third pillar, I think, it's those issues in terms of science, and innovation, with a solid basement of innovation, what is driving these decisions? Political decisions, economic interest? What do you think? You can first start with your presentation if you wish. Here it is.
So but now this is not working. Okay. So to answer your question, basically, when we talk about sustainability governance, scientific reputation is key. Why? Because when we basically want to have behavioral change at a large scale, when we talk about climate governance, climate decision making, we need people, companies, governments to trust us, to understand the science behind any recommendation that we make. So, scientific reputation, if we don't have that, there's nothing really that we can do to achieve this behavioral change at a large scale. So when you think about it, when you want a government to adopt very stringent climate regulations, you need to make sure that they trust you, that they understand the science that you're providing them, that justify this really strict new measurements. Same thing happens for businesses. They're more willingly investing in innovations if they understand the science and they think that the science is credible. Same thing for citizens. Civil society will support costly measures, will support difficult changes if they understand why they're doing it, why they are adapting to it. And also, very importantly, I think that misinformation is less of a problem when there's strong and credible institutions, scientific institutions behind the messages that are spread out. So the second part of the question that you said, what takes part in climate decisions, science or politics? It's both. It's not a bad thing, but we have to distinguish between the fact that science is inherently political because policies have to be evidence-based. They should be. And at the same time, unfortunately, science is also politicized. So as soon as scientific knowledge enters the public debate, it can get reinterpreted, instrumentalized, misunderstood, etc., and it enters debates that are not scientific. They are debates about values, they are debates about ideologies, electoral, economic interests. You know how it goes. And the real problem, I would say, is not that politics exists. The problem is that science and politics sometimes don't share the same narrative. And that's something that we have to tackle. That's something that we have to try as scientists, researchers, etc. We have to try to address. And that's where the element of good governance comes into play. When I talk about good governance, I'm just talking about the perspective of VIII Technological Center, the work that we do at the Governance for Sustainability team, and our perspective through the work that we do. For us, governance, it's a multi-level and a multi-actor thing. So we have to take into account that governance includes academia, researchers, scientists, etc. It includes the public administration, so politics. It includes the society, and it includes the private sector. And within each of these categories, we have different levels. We have inside of a company, inside of a local government, we have the regional government, the national government, international organizations, etc., etc. So we have to take into account all these dimensions when we think about governance. And if we have, when we try to solve these problems about, the alignment between scientific narratives and policy narratives or political narratives, we need to align what the academia knows or thinks, what the politicians know, etc., society, private sector, etc., etc., etc. We need a structural change, basically. We cannot really have good positive impact if we just only work with politicians. We need to raise awareness in society. We need companies to invest in new technologies that might be more sustainable. And this is why scientists have to change hats often. They have to engage in conversations that are not academic, that are not scientific, with people that are not scientists. They have to, get out of their comfort zone, go talk to politicians, etc., etc. So this is basically the approach that we have at the team of Governance for Sustainability. Our goal is to help the science created in beta and around its partners have a real impact. So we focus on 4 different lines of work, basically. First of all, we focus on the science for policy. So we bring evidence into political decision making, policy recommendations, et cetera, to tackle these policy barriers that we identify, things that should be changed in order to be able to reflect the reality of innovation and the possibilities that we have, and translate science into action. Secondly, we also work towards science for practice. We translate scientific knowledge into practical tools for end users. So for companies, for farmers, they need to understand the science if they want to include it in their day-to-day operations. So we try to make it easy for anyone to understand this and translate it. And then as a third pillar, we have science for diplomacy, where we use scientific cooperation to address global inequalities and common challenges. We support in other countries like Ukraine, Turkey, the Mediterranean, the south of the Mediterranean. We support structural reform. So we work at the national level with the governments. So they are the ones understanding and receiving the knowledge and the inputs that can help them make better decisions in the alignment, with alignment on sustainability matters. And since we are in a conference about storytelling, I would like to tell you a story that links these ideas between storytelling, governance, and sustainability. As you know, Osona is one of the biggest and most intensive pig producing areas in Catalonia, but also in Spain, in Europe, we could say. And we have excessive quantities of pig slurry, which creates challenges. What is pig slurry? And excuse my French. It's a mix of feces, urine, and water. And in excessive quantities, it can really pollute our soils, groundwater, the quality of our air. And at the same time, it's also rich in nutrients, and it can be a source of energy. So 10 years ago, we had the storytelling, the narrative that was dominating was the fact that the livestock slurry was the villain. We had too much of it. It was a problem. We didn't know what to do with it. And there was not really a solution. The policy treated the slurry purely as waste. So it was a burden we had to control rather than a resource we had to manage or that we could manage. So that we had this limiting mindset. We were focused on limiting the harm to the soil, the water, and the air, instead of really adopting, a mindset of innovation that we could use to reuse this waste. So what happened then? Science happened, and what I was saying about good governance before happened. Today, we don't treat the slurry as waste. We treat it as a resource. The slurry has value. It powers biogas plants. It helps create biofertilizers, which are much more sustainable. And it opens door to new circular business models. But what happened here? Basically, scientists helped to reframe this problem because we had a storytelling problem besides the excess of slurry. So scientists basically provided the evidence, tested the solutions, worked with companies, policymakers. They got out of the lab to explain and translate this information. And moving sustainability governance from damage control to innovation and waste revalorization. So it was not that regulation changed and then the whole ecosystem followed to apply these rules. It was the other way around. Basically, the narrative changed and then policymakers were able to change the policy and companies were able to adopt innovations, et cetera, et cetera. So what did I want to say with all of this? It's basically that this stories illustrate the fact that storytelling, if it's evidence-based with scientific numbers and arguments, it has the power to change narratives. It has the power to change how problems are perceived. It can change behaviors. You can change how farmers, companies, businesses, policymakers operate, and actually it can change markets and business opportunities. So in the end, just to finish, I would like to just say that we have seen that storytelling is not a decoration or it's not strategic. If you back storytelling with evidence, with scientific evidence, it's really a powerful tool that contributes to good governance and that can also have a positive impact. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, ya está. Well, thank you very much, Ada, for your reflections, deeper reflections. Okay, I would like to ask you at the end to achieve a full alignment of all of these stakeholders, which is a really complex environment, no? Especially when we are in context of global economics, waves of globalization, no? A lot of interdependencies, and well, who has to lead this transition in these countries, no? When we are talking about countries that are under construction, which means that they have to be totally reconstruct, for example, what happens? Who has to lead this transition, no? What do you think about this, based on your experience?
Well, it's definitely a complicated exercise. The problem sometimes is that the actors that are part of the conversations are not neutral. You have hidden political interests in decision-making, especially in countries like Ukraine, going through the process of, European integration, reconstruction during the war, after the war. And you need a stakeholder that is able to speak from a neutral standpoint. So science is usually a useful language because it's neutral, it's backed by evidence, and it's building bridges for us. We're able to talk to governments and to be received as, as a valid interlocutor, basically because we don't represent any partisan interests. So that's, the potential of science. One of the many potentials of science, it's this, that it's a neutral language and that you can build bridges with it.
Thank you very much. Then we're going, if someone wants to ask some questions for the panelist. Yes, Albert.
First of all, thank you for the great speeches and presentations. And I have a question regarding, from a European perspective, what is your view on the challenges and the opportunities, for that Trump's policies and views on sustainability and governance is bringing?
I think that's yours.
Yes, we have a problem. We have a very big problem. He's not the first one to create this problem, but probably he's one of the most impactful figures. He's had a big effect, on people, on perceptions, etc. And the problem now is that we have to counterbalance a lot of misinformation, and so that he doesn't have the public support to do things like, stop financing climate aware policies, or to undo treaties that were key to the global structure for, peaceful and sustainable development at the global scale. And again, I'm linking it to my previous comment. I think science is something that can be used to counterbalance all these things. When evidence is evidence, and a tweet is a tweet. Sometimes if you try to analyze it a bit deeper, you will find counter arguments that are valid and that disprove points like the ones that Donald Trump makes often in certain situations. So hopefully at some point we will be able to, undo many of the things that he's done.
No, just to complement on you, I think that science is important, and also like the paper of all of us. I mean, we need to create that critical thinking that makes like this differentiation between having right information that science will provide and like having this misinformation and because we have a lot of inputs right now in the society that we are living. So this power of education and this power of society creating this critical thinking, it's crucial, and hand by hand with science, of course. Yeah.
One more thing, one more step. Science is absolutely necessary, but also the policies that make it economically possible for the companies and us also to make the change possible.
Question?
I have a question for Anna, because I was not aware about the food losses, the quantity. It's a double question. So the first question is, these food losses that you mentioned are only in the supply, what you call agri-food chain, or domestic food losses were included? This is the first. And then the second question, which is related, is because in the agri-food supply, there are from farmers, from agriculture, livestock farmers, then distribution, transformation. Where is the point where more food losses are?
Okay, so wow, that's a big question. Yeah, first I would like to differentiate. I mean, here in that project, we are only studying the food losses that occur at primary production stage, at farm, like on the farm, because this was the missing piece of the puzzle, because all along the agri-food supply chain, a lot of studies studied like all the food that was wasted, like at retailers, at households, at the industry, supermarkets, and so on. But there are no studies on, or few studies on, all the food that is left unharvested, for instance, on fields due to mainly socio-economic causes, and mainly due to marketing standards. So our farmers are not harvesting maybe lettuces or like oranges because the size it's not appropriate, or because they like are spotted, and that's why they are not. So there are a lot of studies at household levels, but in this case, it's only at primary production. And at households, studies said that it's like the part in which food is more wasted. But as mentioned, we are missing that piece of the puzzle. So we cannot analyze, we cannot say where you waste or lose more food if you are not analyzing the whole agri-food supply chain. And also, of course, we want like to empower our farmers and like to give them voice with this project for sure. Yeah.
Especially nowadays when these supply chains are longer and totally delocalized, no? Which means, well, what do you really control, no? If you are practicing offshoring and we are subcontracting some part of the supply chain, this means, well, what happens, no?
Absolutely.
Questions? More questions? Well, I would like to thank Olga, Anna, and Ada for your deeper reflections and the stories that you have explained to us that has enlightened our vision about the future and about the transition to more sustainable initiatives, no? And to transform and to translate these storytellings into story doings to make it tangible. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Firstly, I'd like to talk about the first three. Yeah, closer? Better? Okay. So firstly, I'd like to talk about the first three keynote conferences that we had, which all emphasized this relationship between storytelling, governance, and cooperation as essential parts of addressing complex sustainability challenges that we face today. Firstly, we had Juan Gomez's conference, which established a relationship between storytelling and the environment, and more specifically, in relation to water, since global water scarcity is accelerating. As he mentioned, less than 1% of Earth's water is drinkable. This need for holistic solutions is increasing very rapidly. So the Fluidras Positive Pools project aim to contribute to this, to carbon neutrality, to increasing the amount of sustainable products on the market, and sustainable products as a product which includes sustainability in its production, in its in its product life, and especially in the end of its life, and also contributes to community well-being. And then moving on to the second one, we had the RIS3CAT project explained in the second conference by Mireia Canals, which is a regional project that focuses on participatory governments, and it focused a lot on the shared agenda model, which uses the quadruple helix of academia, industry, government, and civil society, which came up again in various other talks. For example, just now, I think we saw big circle of government, academia, industry, and last one, what did I say? Civil society. There we go. So these four aspects that need to work together to co-create solutions which are technically, socially, and economically viable. And in this case, we had the examples in Catalonia, the Crona, BioHub, and LACC, which show how inclusive, trust-based innovation can address health, sustainability, and social integration challenges. And finally, storytelling and governance with Andrei Skurla touched on how sustainability can intersect with sustainability storytelling intersects with the brewing industry, with his comparison between Peroni and Mahou, and especially how storytelling is a governance tool and not just branding. So building trust and legitimacy is especially important in these kind of high impact, environmentally impactful industries.
On to the research papers. The first research was on communication transparency on environmental indicators in the Catalan pharmaceutical sector, where Jessica Menendez presented the research of the economic and financial health of the most representative companies in the sector. Following this first paper, the second was Albert Armisen, presenting the environmental performance assessment in telecommunications paper, alongside with the example of the explanatory case study with a comparison between Telefonica, Orange, and the Dutch Telecom, and its transparency and environmental reporting. Afterwards, Noel Faedo presented women journalism in sports club press departments in Argentina, aiming to examine women's journalism perceptions and experiences within Argentinian sports clubs and all of the stereotypes that come with it. Gerard Collplanas presented Unfair Tales, Inequality through Children's Literature, presenting what narratives are offered to students with migrant backgrounds so they can articulate their identity. Alireza Disfoli introduced us to immigration stories movies in the 21st century and presented the difference between gender representation and what roles and endings these tend to reach and how this has been changing through the years. Jordi Chuclà online presented Criticism to Openness, Storytelling as a Tool to Rebuild the Image of the Spanish Parliament, guiding us through the steps that have been followed in the recent years, the effect that have followed, and different points of view along some conclusions. And to end, the last and final paper was Mariana Carrasco presenting Subtitling Diversity, Queer Storytelling, and the Ethics of Inclusion in AG and the Queen. The objective was to analyze how the natural tool of subtitling is used to translate the performative and theatrical language, talk, of queer media in a case study. Together taking, these studies show that storytelling not only informs, but also shapes identities, perceptions, and power relations. This comparative analysis highlights the importance of transparency and representation in contemporary social construction.
And as a bit of conclusion, and also talking a little bit in relation to the last discussions that we just had, so all of the talks sort of reflected on the interdisciplinary and multi-stakeholder nature of the world that we live in and the complex global challenges that we face. And that the interplay between science, governance, and especially narrative shows that, firstly, trust in scientific knowledge is crucial for transforming practices, policies, and business models. And secondly, that sustainability depends not only on technological innovations, but also the ability to properly articulate them into understandable narratives that also civil society can assimilate, and in this way facilitate cooperation, investment, and structural change that is still needed in today's society. And that would be it.
That would be everything.
Well, so good morning to all. Thank you for being here. As we reach the conclusion of this event, I would first like to excuse the absence of our Dean, Josep Burgaia, the Dean of the Faculty of Business and Communication, who has been unable to attend us due to a last-minute change in his professional schedule. So therefore, I'm speaking on his behalf. I'm Sergi Solà, the Head of Studies of the Faculty of Business and Communication. We are now closing this edition of the Storytelling Revisited Conference, and I would like first to express our deepest gratitude to all those who have made this project possible. First of all, thank you to all the speakers, researchers, academics, and professionals whose contributions have enriched the debate around narrative, sustainability, and governance. This edition focused on the intersection between storytelling and environmental, social, and governance values, has shown how stories can become powerful tools to inspire change, foster transparency, and to promote social responsibility. We would like to extend a very special thank you to the MPREN Research Group, which has been essential to the coordination, coherence, and scientific quality of this conference. Their dedication and ongoing commitment are key elements for the Congress success and of the value it brings to our university and professional community. We also want to acknowledge the work of the organizing team and the Universitat de Vic, Universitat Central de Catalunya research groups, whose involvement has made this a genuine space for exchange, encounter, and collective knowledge building. And finally, thank you to all participants, both those who connected online and those who are present in this room, for your interest, your attention, and curiosity through the sessions. Your presence is what gives true meaning to this initiative. This conference is not only a space for presenting research, it's a platform to imagine and build a future in which communication and storytelling contribute to a fairer and more sustainable world. So, on behalf of the Dean and the Faculty of Business and Communication, we reaffirm our commitment to continuing to promote spaces for reflection, dialogue, and transformation. Thank you all, and see you soon.